How's it go from there? Do you remember?
Doesn't it go back?
Yeah, it just
Right?
starts over, I think. It's
Yeah, I
not
think it
like
starts over.
it's not a song that was designed to
Last long.
it wasn't meant to be like this creative orchestra piece where people are like, wow, this is something special.
I'm
But then it ended
inspired.
up
Yeah,
being, but it's literally like what, 14 notes,
I
kind
think
of like
so.
just thrown together. But yeah, no, that dude, he like his homie he calls his homie, and this is in San Diego, and it's in a bad neighborhood, and which
Hmm.
San Diego, the entire city is like a bad neighborhood, right?
But
But
very
he
good
goes,
weather, from what I understand.
yeah, I've been told. I've never been. I've never been to California. I refuse to go, just out of principle. And I hope one day I hope that I'm rewarded for that when I get to heaven and they're like, well, it shows here you never made it out to California. And I said, well, yeah. No, like Hank Hill when Bobby says, you'd never make it in Hollywood. And he's like, I hope I never do make it to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dude, I'll tell you this. I have been on tour, playing music and stuff. And we got into a car accident where we totaled our 15-passenger van after getting into the Warped Tour for free. And the other memory I have, besides having to like sleep in the back of a very small car with boxes of fruit, because the guys that we were staying
were you
with,
crossing the border?
no, dude. So I'm getting to that actually.
Oh, okay.
The guys we were staying with, right? They worked at a fruit packing plant or whatever, and I guess they could just steal shit, or I don't know, take shit all the time. And so me and the bass player who were left behind were sleeping in the back of, I don't know, like a Ford Escort hatchback, like really small car. And for those of you who don't know, I'm 6'5", and
Yeah, he's a big
add
guy.
another person, add another person.
Well, you're already two people, like the
Right, yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So then we're like, it's in the middle of the night. We're actually freezing because San Francisco can get pretty cold at night, actually. And we were woken up to the sound of boxes of fruit being piled on top of us and behind us, and the whole car being stuffed. So that was pretty incredible. And then we actually ended up staying in that band's apartment, and I got left in Half Moon Bay, California on my birthday by all of my band members and the band that I was staying with, because they went out on tour and all the band members flew home because I had just kind of joined the band. And so like the guitar players, basically I got rich parents. He lived in a mansion-ish type place. That's a hardcore band in Connecticut for you, I guess. They were like, oh, you could fly home. My dad will pay, but you have to pay him back. And I said, no, I'm not
Well,
going to
of
do
course
that.
I can fly home. I already know. Like, that's
Right,
the
yeah.
thing. If I'm gonna have to pay him back, I myself could fly home. You don't have to offer it to me, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was 20, 21, 22.
What year was this?
Well, if I was 21 or 22, so let's see, that would be 2001 or 2002, somewhere in there.
And you were on Warped Tour?
No, we were
This was
performing our
different
own tour, and then on a day off, what we thought was going to be a day off, we contacted, because they were friends with the band Thursday,
Okay.
and so, all right, and
I
so
just
anyway,
not. I was
Yeah,
never
no,
big
that's
into
fine.
that scheme. I was more of a family values tour kind of guy, right? Like I
Oh,
was
gotcha,
super
gotcha,
into
gotcha,
Ice
yeah.
Cube at the time, and Limp Bizkit. Well, Limp Bizkit, obviously. That much
sure,
is known
yeah,
about
of
me.
course, obvious. That's, I don't even know why that was in question. It was
Orgy
just
was
assumed.
also on tour with them back.
Although
in the
wasn't
day.
Didn't Limp Bizkit also do the Warped Tour at one time, or am I just
Well, I'm sure
fibbing
they
in
did.
my brain?
Yeah, well, I'm
Oh,
sure
okay.
Fred Durst was just looking for anything at a certain point. He was
Yeah, right.
He was everywhere. He was. And
That's
he
true.
was like right up there with Blink-182 on stage singing Adam's song, and then right after he did the Counterfeit, right? So yeah.
Oh, and let's not forget too, he did that Pink Floyd song with
Yeah,
the
Behind
guy
Blue
from
Eyes.
Disturbed or something.
I really wanted to use that. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, no, you're thinking of Stained, right? You're thinking of
Oh,
Stained.
yeah.
That's a
Oh,
different
I'm sorry,
song.
but
That was something. But Behind Blue Eyes is the one I think you're thinking of, right?
yes, I think you might be right.
I was trying to shoehorn that into your title for today for this week's episode. I really wanted to because because it's SADS, right? And And how's it? No one wants to, or no one knows what it's like to be the sad man.
Sad man.
I wanted yours to be something about no one knows or doesn't know what it's like to be the sads man or something. Like I was trying to do something.
No one knows what it's like to be the victim of sads man.
Right. I couldn't do anything with it. I had it all typed out and it was too much. It was too much in the thing.
It's too big.
I said, you know what? Too big is often a problem that other people hear, not myself. I've never heard that problem.
Sure.
But yeah, that was what I
was
was
Tom,
really
it's like trying to stuff someone who's 6'5" into back of a Ford Escort.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels for some people, I'm sure. Not me
for some, I don't know.
Some I have heard people make that comparison. So what was your band's name called, though?
For All It's Worth was the name of the band that I was on tour with. I had just joined after my band Slackjaw, which we named after Cletus the Slackjawed Yokel had broken up.
It's really close.
Yeah, we had broken up. And then I said, you know what? Well, actually, I kind of broke up the band because I started the band and I wanted to tour. And then the drummer was like, nah, man, I got a summer job or something. I was like, well, that's not, I don't, we're only young once. Yes, guys, come on.
YOLO, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yo-YOLO or whatever it is,
It's
and so then they were looking for a guitar player to go out on tour. And I was like, sold. And I did. And then, so we went out to California. It took until Utah for us to get our first gig, which is crazy. Just imagine being in a 15-passenger van with like 6 other guys, just driving across the country nonstop.
And not to mention the instruments, right?
Oh yeah, the instruments were underneath of makeshift bed we built in the back, and then everybody else had the bench seats until the front too. And then we get to Utah, we play with a bunch of Mormon hardcore bands, and then stayed at a Mormon house, and my feet stunk because I was so anxious I wouldn't take my shoes off the entire time I was in the car with the guys because I never really I didn't know them like that in my head. And then my feet were just awful, smelled just got awful because we had played the show too. And then the guy's like, oh yeah, go take a shower and stuff. And so I went in, blasted up the toilet, and took my shoes off. Finally took my shoes off
at the same time.
After like 4. Yeah, I literally blew my socks off taking this massive shit. And then he goes in there afterwards. He's like, God, who died in there? Like, it was just awful. And so then we get to San Francisco where we get to go backstage in the Warped Tour. We get to get in for free. It's all very nice, very posh or whatever. But then we get a phone call from the singer's girlfriend who's like, I booked you a gig somewhere. Because that's how she sounded.
Well, that's how most of them sounded. Back in, you said 2001, that's how women sounded back then, right?
Yeah, imagine a hardcore harpy who, dressed like Hot Topic, but was too good for Hot Topic, and then also Attitude or whatever.
So she just had like a backstage pass to Hot Topic. They let her in the back, and she could, after hours when nobody could see her.
Mm-hmm. She's like, wow, this is from anime. Anyway, that's Japanese,
I read
so then,
this manja.
Yeah. So then we leave, the Warped Tour where we see all these bands for free and shit like that. And we run off into the van to go to our show, Victorious. And then we're going down to San Francisco Hill, which is about this steep, And Tom, most people get acclimated to their surroundings, and that's how they drive in like traffic, So like most people would say, if you're coming to an intersection, there will be a stop sign on the right-hand corner, right? Or you're coming to an intersection, there's a light above your head. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Well, in San Francisco, they put a light on the right-hand corner, and our guitar player who was driving didn't realize that until the very last minute, and nearly T-boned, but sideswiped the back quarter panel of a BMW convertible and put the lesbian up on a corner. And I'm not kidding, by the way. She was actually just a really fat lesbian. And put her up on the corner right into like it was like a corner for nothing except a billboard. So there's like all this bare, concrete and then just billboard. And so she went right into the billboard. And all I remember was the singer of the band coming from in between me and the other guy who was sitting in the same chair with a bottle of bug juice, for those who don't know the terminology, basically it's a 2-liter gallon of milk, except instead it was like Kool-Aid or whatever, and from the store. And he had it open, and his body went flying. So you just watched, pink lemonade or whatever it was, just go splashing up against the windshield, then back on all of us, and then we're getting sloshed around. And then I ended back in the car, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, they leave me on my birthday to all fly home. And the band whose place I was staying went on tour. So I just stuck around for like a couple days by myself until I was like, well, I guess I don't know, I'm bored now. And I was too proud to take too much money from my parents. And I just borrowed their credit card to buy a bus ticket. So I took a 4-day bus ride home from California to Connecticut. And halfway through, I met a girl from Australia who was unnerved by sitting next to a guy who openly admitted he had just gotten out of prison. So she was like...
So she moved away from you? She no longer
well, we
sat
took
by
it.
you?
No, it was reversed. We took this... I couldn't believe it because I hadn't showered in days either, you know. And, she said, oh, this guy kind of creeps me out. Do you mind switching seats? I was like, yeah, I smell bad, but you can certainly sit next to me, you know. And so then we, we're talking the whole time. And so then we're nearing the coast, we're going into the Grand Central Station in New York and everything. And she goes, yeah, it's just going to be me in this like high-rise apartment that from a guy I met online and stuff. And it's just, when I'm by myself, I mean, I just need
crazy horny.
No, dude, she goes, I just don't wear any clothes. I just walk around naked, no clothes, just me in the weeds, you know what I mean? And I'm going to go there, shower, and I got this nice apartment. It's incredible. I can't believe it. And Tom, if some girl told you that after hanging out with you for a couple of days on a bus, what would you think she kind of meant in telling you that? What was the point?
That you could... reasonably, well, my mind immediately goes to this is the sort of person who probably you could rob and totally get away with it, right? Because she's like not somebody she's certainly not going to be carrying inside the high-rise apartment, right?
No. Well, she's an Australian girl on a walkabout.
She doesn't even know that 911 is the number that she'd like call the upside. She doesn't know how to hold the phone right. She'd be holding it upside down, talking into the earring part, and then the 911 operator would hang up, or the 119 operator because she's upside down. So I would say that reasonably, you could. She's indicating, hey, I am. You could come up and you could take whatever you wanted, and
yeah.
I am free for the take. And if you wanted to, if you so chose, I would personally. If you so chose to take advantage of her, I suppose you could probably do that. And
I like how you say take advantage as if she wasn't out
throwing
like downright offering.
Yeah, you could pretend, and here's the thing: is you could pretend like you were role playing, like, oh, I'm the scary burglar, right? And she's like, oh no, and she like falls all over herself. Meanwhile, you're like collecting all the fine things that are in the apartment, or whatever, and you're like, I'm coming for you, and then you leave, and she's like, oh, help me, and she's on the ground, but you're like, the door closes, and then she's like, oh, hold up, we were just robbed. I just let somebody rob this guy that I met on the internet. What do I do? And then, she doesn't have any... it's not like she's got a social security number, right? So she just hops in another bus to the airport.
She's gone.
And she's out of here, right? And this internet guy, he's none the wiser. All he knows is her screen name, right?
And he doesn't know that I was there.
Yeah, and he's probably seen her butthole. And then, and here's the thing.
Probably.
He's going to think it's the perfect crime, right? Because he's going to
think
it was
it's
her. And her fingerprints are going to be all over the apartment.
Or her butthole prints, hopefully, because that's what he's seen.
Right? So he's going to be like, I know this. Yep, that's her for sure. Like, compare these photographs, and then the detective is going to be like, and she's never going to, if they ever bring her in, she's not going to.
Oh, yeah.
She can tell that story. She'll be like, well, no, I met this guy on a 4-day bus ride from San Francisco,
on a bus,
right?
Yeah.
And there was a murderer sitting next to me. He just got out of prison, and I traded places with this other guy. I invited him up to the high rise. He came in. We were doing some role play thing where he was gonna like, oh, don't rape me, right? And then all of a sudden he took the priceless.
No, Tom. The game would be don't rob the place. This isn't even my place. You could please rape me or whatever. That's the.
It was a terribly like coordinated thing where you almost think like she's in on it with you, right? And
exactly.
It's that good, and that's immediately where my mind goes when that happens.
So that's what you would think.
I don't know what you thought was going on.
Well, here's the best part, Tom. I didn't. And I was like, wow, that sounds incredible. I wish I could go. I'll see you later. And I had nowhere else to be. I had no job. I it was just me riding back home to Connecticut. And so I ride back home to Connecticut, still not realizing what I've done. And then I get off the bus, and my buddy's mom was there to pick me up because my parents weren't there. And she picked me up and dropped me off, and I took a very long nap. Got up, and I called my buddy to tell him, his mom, thank you again or whatever. And he, told me exactly for about a good 20 minutes how much I smelled, and that his mom's car is now, extremely tainted, just gross. And so as I'm listening to this, I say, well, if I was so gross, and then I tell him the story I just told you, right? And he says to me, wait a minute. So a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tan to the hilt Australian girl said she had a high-rise in New York for you to come hang out in, and that she never wears clothes so long as she's like, I don't know, indoors or whatever. And you came home and ruined my mom's car with your stink instead of going to that apartment. And Tom, you ever have one of those moments where you have that, not just your future life, but your past life, but that moment flash before you over and over, like in a very cartoonish, circular, like a fast newspaper, That is what happened, and I've replayed that in my mind many, many, many times since. And I've, of course, convinced myself that she would have been setting me up. That there would have been a guy there, or that,
and
he
would have taken your crystallized.
Oh, yeah, or she had AIDS, or,
you know.
She's taking
she would have had Stia, right?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But no, so it's like, oh yeah, she must have had something, Tom, and that's why she's on this walkabout, so she can get her kicks in, before she dies, and she's still got her looks and stuff. That was what I told myself, that I actually technically dodged a bullet, right? So I told myself that for a while. And of course, as I'm telling myself that, as I'm telling my friend to convince him to get off my back, I get down on the computer, dial up, whatever it was. And then I start emailing her, because we had exchanged emails. Like,
that's how we used to do it back then. We didn't have cell phones, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, frankly,
what was your email? Was it? Let me guess what your email was.
Okay.
It was because here's the thing: a lot of you young guys don't realize this. Like, we had emails when we were teenagers that we like hung on to for years, right? And this was like
way
back
too
into
long.
the 90s. We'd created these emails, and they were typically incredibly embarrassing. Like, in retrospect, you look back and you're like, what a stupid
dog
email
part
that was.
69.
Mine
whatever.
was for a while. Mine was, oh gosh, I made it when I was in like 6th grade. It was, and that's not justifying it because I kept it for a long time. It was Mad Hatter 182. Because I was a big fan of Blink-182, right? And that was the thing to do. You attached, numbers or whatever. Also, there was already 181 Mad Hatters at hotmail.com. But yours was probably, because I'm imagining you giving it to her, handing it to her and being like, hey, I made it when I was younger. Because that's what you'd say, too. You'd give somebody your email. You'd be like, I made it when I was younger, right? And, and I just, as if emails were a commodity that you had to pay to make them or whatever, which was not the case. But you just hung on to it out of, like...
It was this new thing you had to remember, Tom. That's the thing.
Yeah, you didn't want to do that. So you maintained that email for... I had Mad Hatter 182 for decades, literally decades. And, and then I lost it when Hotmail kind of, like, defunct or whatever. It was no longer useful. But yours was probably... I don't know, balls_2_the_wall 69 at yahoo.com. Balls to the wall 69. Was I close?
No, not even. Dude, it's actually more pathetic than that. Well, instead of like the classic dumb shit, I took myself very seriously at that age. Okay. This wasn't like comedian Jerry. I mean, I had that in me, yeah, but like I was turning serious, kind of,
You were a professional.
And, but also politically, I'm serious. I am serial. And the band Propagandhi, it was one of my favorites. And I still like them. It's not, but I could be casual about it. Like, oh yeah, they're, I like them. A lot of good songs. No, this was like a whole lifestyle thing, because they were I can't. It's so embarrassing.
It's
but
like when people really like Immortal Technique and they're like, well, he's just very political, so I respect that about him.
Yeah. And instead, it's just no. I felt their ethos. They have like in their liner notes, they had books to read and CD-ROMs and stuff and all that. So my name was Propageri at hotmail.com. And in fact, that lasted long enough on message boards and that I ended up switching over to Gmail, and that was one of my emails, propageri@gmail.com. So
you really you went all out with keeping your. I got to admit, I did ditch I did ditch my Mad Hatter 182. And it was, I wasn't, I thought it was. I don't even know why. I didn't even like Alice in Wonderland at the time. I mean, it wasn't even big at the time. This was like in a lull, right, between the original Alice in Wonderland Disney one and Through the Looking Glass, and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the modern day Alice in Wonderland, because I'm talking like this is 1996, right? So there was nothing Alice in Wonderland for miles in either direction.
Yeah, it hadn't.
So I have no idea what I was thinking when I was like, oh, mad. It was mad _ Hatter 182. I'm sure I could probably gain access to it again. I'll be like, yeah, I was like, they'll be like, send a picture to verify, and I'll send a picture of myself, and then I'll be like, also, this was me in 6th grade. It'll be like a picture of me.
They're like, yeah, it's you in 6th grade, is it? I feel like it's still you now,
Yeah, you could totally tell that I have not changed even a bit. Like I still have my boyish good look. So
That's right.
So did you ever what did she say when you emailed her? I feel like
so I emailed her
I'm
and I was like,
you now. So what happened? What did she say? Did she send you pictures of her? And I gotta say, this Monster Radio said she obviously wanted to show you her Land Down Under. Did you in fact get pictures of her Land Down Under, Jerry? Did you?
No. And so here's
moving on.
But no, wait. I did dodge a bullet, but it wasn't the one I thought I was going to dodge. Now, Tom, you have kids, although not a girl. But I'd ask you to put those shoes on as the father of a girl.
I watch enough Predator Catcher shows to understand that you have to be able to associate. Maybe I've got a cousin who's 14 years old.
Sure, yeah. Right, exactly. So if I was to ask you, hey, your daughter wants to go on a global trot, a walkabout, how old would you say that girl would have to be for you to even allow her to get on that bus or whatever?
So I understand where you're going with this. Personally, I'm a bit like Liam Neeson in that regard. In Taken. I would say
I'm Liam Neeson in all 3 Takens.
I'm more so like 1 and 3, but not so much 2. But that's the case with most trilogies, right? She's been taken, and I'm about to be taken too, right? That's how. And then you hear it in the movie, and you're like excited because you know where they got the title from. Then, but no,
I'm also Superman 4, a quest for peace.
That's where they got the title. He said it. He said the title.
He said it.
No, I'm very much like him, where I'm like, she's too young to be going to a YouTube tour in France.
Right.
I would say
she's 40, Tom. Yes, I know.
She would have to be out of my control entirely. Like where I'm like, okay, you've graduated high school. You're at least, 17 if she graduated early, right? I'd be like, you're graduated high school. You're gonna be an adult later on this year. You're gonna be legally an adult. I'm like, I guess I got no. If I say no, you're gonna do it anyways, right? And you're gonna do it just.
You're gonna do it harder,
spite me,
Right?
Yeah. So I would say 17, graduated high school. That's my cutoff. Anything before that, no. Anything after that, I'm just gonna say, please be careful. Call me, whatever.
Every day, yeah. Use your Hotmail.
Email me at madhatter182@hotmail.com every day, as often as you can. Emails are free. I know it's scary new technology, but it is free. You can hop on to, just pop in your AOL.
You can go to an internet cafe.
Yeah, and hop on. Use that CD that I gave you. It's got 24 hours of
4
AOL.
hours. Well, Tom, I'll tell you. We emailed, and I was like, hey, how long? Because I tried to. Now that I realized, I have to save this story. So I emailed her that minute, hey, so I kind of just realized I just wanted to go home and shower and stuff, but if you're going to be there,
Oh, so this is all within some short amount of time.
Oh, dude. So I fall asleep, wake up, tell my friend. My friend's like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Right.
You know.
As he should.
Yeah, and I go, "I'll show you, idiot." Click. You know, and then, "Oh, please, are you there still?" You know.
Right.
And then she emailed me days later, and I knew like it was you know,
too late. Yeah,
it's too late. And she said, "Hey, it was really great being." Around you for those days and being able to sleep on your shoulder on the bus and all this sort of sweet stuff. And she goes, but I have to admit, I did lie to you. I told you I was 19 and I'm
12.
16.
Oh, okay.
I'm 16. And I'm like,
she's like sleeping on your shoulder, your elbow, more like. She's 12.
Yeah, right. She was sleeping on my shoulder, but then in between us was a big teddy bear.
She had a lollipop that you had to take out of her mouth when she fell asleep.
Yeah, really.
She didn't want her hair to get all sticky or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a binky. Yeah. But no, so she said, "Oh, well, I'm 16. Maybe some other time or whatever it was." And I was like, "Yes, some other time." Bleep, 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 bleep.
Right.
Delete everything. So yeah, I did dodge a bullet because it's entirely possible that everything that she said was true, other than the age. That there could have been a naked weekend with a
you could have raped her. You could have pretend raped her.
I could have
right and stolen a bunch of goods from a child.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
So you would have been. Can you imagine Nito coming up to you? He set you up with a real 12-year-old.
Dude, and Nito's in my state.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said. That's why I specifically said Nito. I didn't say, DAP, right? I didn't,
right, no.
So I have a similar story. Not nearly as funny or anything, but it's a moment where I dodged a bullet. Where I dated this girl in high school. I'll give you like a real short backstory. Dated this girl in high school. Ended up like she and I decided we like part. Well, not it wasn't like mutual or whatever because I was going off to the army and she was just like, well, it's not gonna work. Yeah. I'm gonna go to college. You're gonna go to the army. Whatever. So we parted.
I'm inevitably gonna sleep with a bunch of guys and you're gonna get mad
while you're gone. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. But she was like, but I'd like to remain together through prom just so that like I don't feel bad that you bought all this shit or you rented all this shit for prom and then I don't want you to like leave me high and dry for prom basically because it was her junior prom. It's the only reason I was going. I was a senior.
Yeah.
We were still the same age because she was like slow, I guess. I don't know. But I was 17. Okay. She was 17. I don't know. It's just weird how that worked out. I graduated early, and not because I'm smart or anything. My mom just put me in school earlier so that she could not have to deal with me.
Get out of the house.
Right.
What are you, 5? Get out of here.
But get your suitcase and get out of here, Thomas Junior.
Put on your church shoes.
And go to school.
Impress people out there.
Now you're 5. You're growing moss already, for crying out loud. So she anyways. So we kind of like do this thing where we're like, well, we're breaking up, but we're gonna stick it out for the prom or whatever. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, you know what?
Those must have been weird pictures, right?
No, I don't even think we took pictures together because she was I think only dating me to get with this other guy that like had no interest in her, but like it was weird. In her grade. Okay. But like they knew it's a complicated story, not interesting, not worth talking about right now. I will, if people get.
Can I ask you a question real fast?
Please,
like seriously.
Please. Go ahead.
All right, look. Here's the thing. I'm connecting some dots, Tom, and I just need you to come clean, if it's true. Okay.
Happy to.
At the time. Did she also tell you that did she admit that she was dating you because she couldn't figure out her smart TV?
Well, no, she had emailed me. She had emailed me at matthatter182 at Hotmail.
Just sent you a thumbs up.
And that's all it said. And I didn't understand, so I did have to. That's how we ended up dating was because I got that email and I was confused and I approached her at school and I said, hey, I noticed that you were also on the net because that's what we called it back then, right? So I noticed that you're also on the net. You sent me a thumbs up. But not like we didn't have emojis back then, right?
It was literally the picture.
It was literally, it was a picture of a thumb.
It took 45 minutes to load because it was high res.
Yeah, and I had a 56. Well, it was 28.8, right? But we called it 56K because nobody wanted to ever admit that they had a 28.8 modem. Right, But anyways, so that's how we ended up dating. But no, anyway.
And then she said, "No, Tom, that email was supposed to go to my mixer husband."
I was trying to send it to my Roku. My mixer husband, he was setting up the Roku. It was supposed to go to him.
Yeah.
You must be in
my mixer 17-year-old husband. that I need to
Weird
make jealous.
situation, I'm telling you. This was back in Wisconsin, so you got to understand something about Wisconsin, especially rural Wisconsin. It's a very different
Right.
landscape. Not a lot of people will appreciate that until you see it, right? So
I believe you.
So anyways, we parted ways, did our thing, and we were like, okay, well, we'll stick it out for prom, blah, 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 blah. Like, immediately after that, I went and I met up with this chick who was in my parenting class, right? I was the only guy. It was a time-honored tradition in my school. I think I told you it was like 28 kids in my graduating class.
Yes.
It was a time-honored tradition throughout every semester in that school's history. There have always been women in the parenting class, but there was always one guy would always end up in parenting, right? And I had too many study halls my senior year because I was done with everything. I literally had nothing else to do. So my counselor came and she found me in study hall and she's like, you can't have like 4 or 5 study halls. I don't remember how many I had, but she's like, you can't have that many plus a teacher's aide. You're literally only taking 2 classes this semester. You need to go do something else. So she said, I guess she was like reconciling records and shit. And she said, so here, she's like, let me take you down the hall and we'll show you what classes are meeting at this time. You can find out. So I see parenting and I sign up for parenting. And so I'm like, I'll just come in here because this hot chick that I knew was in that class, and I was like, oh,
sure.
I'll be, and there's no guy here already.
And you're like,
so
I'll pretend to birth with you.
Right, yeah. So and the funny thing is, I told them they had to call me daddy throughout the whole, because I was the only guy. So I said everybody in this classroom has to call me daddy for the entire class because that's just gender roles, right? This is before you couldn't say that sort of thing.
This was before the What is a Woman documentary.
Right. This was way before that. Like, everybody knew, right? There was no confusion about that. And if there was, those people were institutionalized. Now, so I saw this chick, and I was like, all right. So her name's Jolene, because I don't even know if she's still alive anymore, but her name's Jolene. And she was really pretty and really cool chick. And we hung out, like, once or twice. But, I mean, that was about the extent of
What year was
friendship.
this?
This was back in 2002. Yeah, 2002.
Okay.
And so, are you looking her up on the?
Well, yeah, Tom. I listen.
Are you sending her an email on Roku?
No. Here's the thing, Tom. I don't want to be the one to tell you that after all these years.
I haven't even told you the story about her.
Here's the thing. I don't.
Tell me she's
Okay.
alive.
Look. Here's the thing. I looked up Jolene accident 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually on YouTube. It's on YouTube, and so I looked at it. And Tom, I hate to say this, she had such difficulty getting herself out of the TV box.
This is a different chick.
That she fell down a ravine in the box and she perished. I am sorry to tell you, but
what can
Jolene died how she met you, in a box.
She never met me in a box. None of this makes sense.
I mean, I don't. Maybe it's the wrong one. There are a couple of Jolene accident YouTube videos.
Well, as there should be, right?
It's like, yeah.
But let me finish telling you the story.
Sorry.
I started writing.
I'm sorry.
I started writing this because I thought it would be something I could use for the description, and then it was nothing that I could use for the description. Anyways, so I went into class, started hanging out with her, started palling around with her, and this is before the breakup with this other girl who I won't name because
you were in limbo,
yeah, right. So anyways, towards the end of the year, final week or whatever before prom, me and this chick split up, and kind of like soft breakup, right? It was a soft breakup. And so me and this Jolene chick, we had become friends over the semester and we were tight. And then like one thing led to another. I don't even remember how it happened. Like she and a buddy of mine, Timothy, like my best friend in high school, we were like hanging out at my house, watching movies or playing video games or some shit. And then I went and I like drove them home as if we needed to. I mean, like our houses were, we lived in a town that had 300 people in it. So like everything was like crawling distance. It was not that far away, but I'm like, you know what? I got my driver's license. I got my mom's minivan. We got a case of Crystal Pepsi, or no, not Crystal. It was Pepsi Blue. I was like, let's take a ride. We drive and drop them off or whatever. I dropped Timothy off, and then I dropped Jolene off. We ended up making out in the car, right? Oh. And and she is best friends with this chick who whatever. So she kind of like knew the circumstances. And anyways, all this stuff happens, transpires, some stuff goes on or whatever between now
I know
and
it's a
then.
different one, but I so want you to go by the Crystal Pepsi player from now on.
No, it was the Pepsi Blue player.
I know,
which
but
is
that's not,
really good. I miss Pepsi
the
Blue every day.
Pepsi Blue bad boy. Nah, because you want to do the BB. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We'll do
All right.
We'll figure something out in time. But yeah, so we. Anyways, the end of the year comes, and seniors get let out a little bit early. Like we get off a week or two early. When exam finals, you take your finals, and then you're done. You're out. You don't have to fuck around with all the nonsense.
They let you go on skiing trips early.
Yeah, stuff like that. Well, that would be for like rich schools. I was in a farming community, so they were like, "All right, get to work for the next 80 years. Good luck, right? Get back to your turbines and shit.
Find how many bodies are in the silo."
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, they let me go. I'm sleeping one afternoon because I didn't have to wake up, and I was getting ready to go to the army anyways. So I'm like, I'm gonna sleep in and chill out or whatever. And my friend Timothy comes over and he like shakes me awake. And I look like that, that meme where the guy is like sleeping and he's like, like the light shining on his face and he's like startled awake. That was me in real life. And Timothy, he's like, I don't know. He's like, bro, I don't know who told, but this chick whose name I almost get, fuck it, it's Callie. Anyways, Callie found out that you and Jolene made out and blah, 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 and this other stuff that went on or whatever. And not a lot of people, like, nobody knew about that, which is weird. So I assumed it was my friend Timothy just kind of like being funny. Because that was the sort of prank that we played on people, right?
That's a prank? Here, let me ruin your life a little bit.
Yeah, right. But it wasn't like it ruined my life because this chick and I were already broken up. And this is after we were in fact broken up that I find out. He's like, oh, Callie found out that you and Jolene, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, no. Okay, well, anyways, what are we doing? What are we gonna do? And then she like chewed me out about it. Like I was walking to my friend Timothy's house, who, like I said, was within walking distance, and she like was driving to work again because I could see her house. I could see her pull out and then try to say, I was like, I gotta deal with it because again, it's a small town, right? I'm not kidding when I say it's a small town. And she manually
rolled down the window. She took that visor off her head and she gave you a what for?
She did. She said. I forget how it started, but she ended up calling me the biggest asshole in the entire world. Which I'm like, I was like, who cares? Like, it was literally 1 week. It was like the week that we broke up, and you were already messing around with this other guy. Like, why are you chewing me about this? Like, who cares? Like, this is not something that matters. And anyways,
because you're not supposed to have that experience,
you can't do that, right? And that was what I did.
I'm supposed to leave you.
But I went and I hooked up with her,
right?
Her best friend.
Exactly.
Anyways, so she was obviously very upset about that. Anyways, time rolls on. I go into the army. I'm in Iraq the first time, and I come home on leave. And while I was in Iraq, again, the internet was very like primal back then. I mean, it's like
primordial,
maybe. So I mean, it's still like early. There was no Google really. This is pre-Google. This is how we measure the internet, right? It's pre-Google. And we're still talking.
Which message board did you find your internet girlfriend?
Well, it was Discovery. It was a Discovery Channel. But no, I had written to this Jolene girl, and I was like, oh hey, like because MySpace was big or new or whatever. And I found her. I found all of my friends from my hometown and shit. And I was like, oh hey, what's up? I was like, oh hey, Jolene, hey, I'm gonna be coming home on leave or whatever. We should totally meet up and hang out and whatever. And because we left on like very neutral terms. Like it was not something where we were like, oh, we're gonna pursue.
Well, you weren't doing much talking to get into an argument.
No, absolutely not. And so, but she, we parted ways. Just like, okay, well, that was fun. That was a fun summer.
Yeah,
see you later. And that was that. And so I was like, hey, we should totally meet up. Anyways, I come home. Don't even think about it because I'm thinking about hooking up with this other girl, right? Who's not cool, right? I'm thinking of this other girl whose name is. I'll just tell you all the names of the people. You'll be able to look them up because you know the town I live in or whatever. Somebody will be able to put a thing together of like all the chicks that I tried to bang in my hometown. This other.
I hope it's narrated by one of those murder YouTube channels that I watch. They're like, no, this is Tom.
It'll be narrated by Chills from the Chills YouTube videos. Where he's like,
no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I wish I had like an audio.
Oh, wait.
Somebody knows who Chills is, and they'll be able to.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He has the most Annoying.
most wonderful.
Right?
Yes,
everything
yes,
sounds
yes.
like a question, and then he tried to get a rap career.
He's in
which he
internet
failed at.
memes and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. I got you. Yep.
So
Okay.
it'll be
It's
that
chills.
guy who does it. But anyways,
Oh,
so I was
no.
trying to hook
Okay.
up with this other girl, and it didn't end up pursuing anything with this Jolene girl. And so one thing leads to another. I end up going back to Iraq to finish out my tour, and then while I'm there, come to find out she was pregnant. She got pregnant like shortly after.
Jolene.
Jolene. And which I didn't even end up hooking up with the other girl. It was a total bust of a leave, but whatever.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so I find out that Jolene's
So much for supporting the troops.
Yeah, right? Like, everybody has all these yellow bumper stickers, but, like, who cares? When the time comes, are they willing to deliver? No. But
Not at all.
she got pregnant right around the same time that I was home on leave. So by not hooking up with her, I totally avoided, like, any kind of situation where I might have, like, been involved in like a Maury situation where I had to be like, well, am I the father? Well, this baby's, like, really black, like, far blacker than I am.
Dude, you could have made, like, $500 though, for
by
the
being
appearance.
on Maury?
Yeah, I mean, I was on leave. You're still even recording it from the camp, like one of those where they claim it's remote, contacting us from satellite, whatever, in Kuwait or what, I don't know, wherever you were.
I was no, I was in Iraq. I was in Baghdad for my first tour. They're very easy to remember because it's like the one city in Iraq.
The one place everybody knows.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was in calling us in from Baghdad is Tom. Tom, he got together with this Jolene chick who apparently, is like she's like the retarded kid at the grocery store. It was her job to bag all the bad apples that weekend. Anyway, hello.
But she didn't even get me, which is the most hurtful part.
No,
right?
yeah, and he's like, and that's you going. It couldn't have been me. I didn't, I didn't even touch her. I didn't even have sex with her, And she's like, Tom, I could still feel your tongue from high school, and you're like, whoa, that has nothing to do.
That would not have. Yeah, I would absolutely have gone on Maury for that situation. I actually, and here's a funny story. I would, I'll tell this one really, really, really quick.
Sure.
So when oh man, you know what? I don't feel bad about this because I don't think anybody from my hometown listens. But anyways, when I was dating this Cali girl, like the furthest I ever got with her was like a handy J, right? And like I got several handy J's from her. I don't want to discredit her and be like, oh, she only gave me one. I don't want to downplay it. She gave her.
Tom got so many handy J's it required both arms.
Yeah, well, she ended up coming away with like really like Popeye forearms, right? By the time I went,
she was that guy from the movie Lady in the Water from M. Night Shyamalan. Do you remember that movie?
I do. I don't remember anybody with big fat forearms in it though.
Yeah, dude, there was a guy who had one big forearm. I'm telling you, go look. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it again because I remember.
Just go look.
That awkward guy. I don't remember his fucking name. Well,
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, that's the guy.
And let me tell you about Paul Giamatti. He is from, or at least went to, school in New Haven, Connecticut, and has a mural on one of the streets.
You want to hear something interesting? It's not. I mean, it's somewhat.
And by the way, I kind of chased him and his kids one time.
Please give me an autograph. He's like, leave me alone, Jerry. Leave me alone.
Well, when I say chased, it was a slow-footed chase,
Okay.
But essentially, I was texting other people while walking behind him and his family, trying to figure out if it would be too rude while he's like there with his kids, right? Like to just go, look, we're on the same street corner. Can I just tell you that, like, I think you're a really good actor. I liked, American Splendor. Can you like sign my book or whatever? Or can I take a picture with my flip phone? Whatever. It was the time.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Which you could never show anybody because they were so pixely and green.
Oh yeah, there was.
You're like,
dude,
it's me and Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, dude, I have a picture lost to time. Yeah, I have a picture lost to time where I was in Rhode Island, and I ran into John Waters. If you know who he is.
Mustache. Oh no, he's got a big
little mustache guy.
A little mustache.
No. He has
very John Waters and Geraldo.
Oh yeah.
Two very different mustaches.
Two very gay Hispanic people. So yeah, and then I would show people, and the flip phone picture. I mean, the screen.
It was like a thumbnail of my.
Yeah, it was like a thumbnail.
Right?
You just oh, here, look at this picture of me and John Waters,
It's like when you look at somebody's Instagram and they've got that little teeny tiny picture and you can't click on it to like get a better look at it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, but that's how it was for all pictures
Right.
on the flip phone.
All pictures.
But
yeah.
No, anyways,
But you could take 12 of them, don't forget.
Oh yeah,
there was that much memory.
Yeah, and some phones as they got better, you could have up to 13 or 14. But no, I used to get my fair share of handy J's, right? And at one point she mentioned to me that she was late, and this was probably like towards the end of our relationship, right? Because I was already at a point where I was like, I don't care. I don't care how she feels about me.
I need
right?
more than handies.
I need to move on. I need to evolve as a human, right? As a man, I need more than just handy J's. And she goes, she's like, well, my period's late. And I said, okay. And she's like, well, it's a very small town. She was a very religious kid or whatever, kind of like sheltered from the world. So she's like, my period's late. I'm worried. And I'm like, about what? Like how what does this have to do with me? Like, you should be worried for sure. I, on the other hand,
I guess the question, Tom, would then be,
right?
Yeah, but Tom, the question would then be to her, I would say, where? Oh, this is awful.
Do it, Jerry.
Okay, well, the question remains then, where did you wipe your hands after the handy J? Because that's the only...
Right, there are women out there who, like, after coating their hands in semen, will wipe their hands on between their own legs to just clean their... Because that's a convenient place to wipe your hands, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what was going on. But anyway, she like, soft accused me of impregnating her. And I'm like... We have never... I was like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe it's because I'm not from this town. Like, I have lived all over the country, and I've received education from people other than my cousins, right? Like, I know
Wait, Tom,
kind
were
of
you
how
already...
the human system, the reproductive system works. And I can tell you that, like, we have not...
You were low-key already putting your cape...
I was indeed. Yeah,
you were already...
Yeah, as a senior in high school, I lorded that over her as like, I am more knowledgeable in the human reproductive system, especially the female reproductive system, than you are.
Well, you did take the parenting class too. Don't forget.
I did too, and she hadn't yet taken it. She did take it the following year with.
Well, because she was pregnant with your
with my hand job child.
With your hand job child.
Yeah, so she had accused me of...
Oh, would you... Can I ask you... Oh, this is really important, Tom. I'm sorry. I have a very personal question for you.
Please.
Would you, if she was, like, actually pregnant, would you have named the child something, first name with an H, middle name with a J, and never told her why?
Harold James. Harold
James or Harriet Jeanette or...
Whatever, if it was a girl, I would have probably not named her.
Haley,
you know who I would have named it? Because
Haley Jolene.
You got to understand.
Why Jolene?
At the time, this was right after Attack of the Clones came out, so I would have named him after Hayden Christensen. So I would have named him Hayden Jedi Miller, right? That's what I would have gone with, because I was also a teenager still, so I didn't know anything. I was an idiot.
Dude, can I tell you? I have a friend who named himself Mo Porn.
Mo Porn?
Yeah, Mo, as in the bartender from The Simpsons, Porn. His name is actually something like way funnier, which I guess is why you would change your name. And his sister named her child, for real, this is not a joke,
Gay?
Anakin.
Oh. Well, see, I'd respect that. You say it like
it's
a bad thing. Yeah. I would name a kid if it was just up to me. Like, I would name my kids like you would name a dog. You know what I mean? Like, I would just name them whatever popped
Butcher?
in my head, right? Like my dog's names are Chewie and Diesel, right? I would name my kids similarly. I name my kids after cartoon characters, right? So yeah, I would have named them Grievous and Dooku and Sidious. I would have named them all sorts of crazy Star Wars references. Maul, Darth Maul. I would name Darth
Jar
Maul Miller, right? No. Jerry, no.
Listen, Tom, you're a prequel fan. I don't know what you would stoop to.
I will never, ever... I respect that Jar Jar was part of the canon, but I do not appreciate Jar. You know what I've realized about this whole Obi-Wan situation? There's a lot of shit.
Yeah, this
Heart Sutra, I gotta say this because I have yet to address everybody in the chat, but Heart Sutra is here for the moment, and I want to say thank you for always commenting on the videos after they're finalized and everything. I always love to see Heart Sutra's comments on the videos.
Oh, because I was very confused. I have to admit, I don't know where Heart Sutra lives or what their deal is, but you
even have to use non-gendered terms, right? Because it's a girl.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
But like Heart Sutra is also like we have no idea if that's a boy or a girl.
No idea. No. So I wanted to say that's very sweet. You know, really, truly, actually sweet. Except it's Wednesday. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's where I was at.
Them always they don't watch it until they don't watch it until Thursday because they can only see them come here when we're filming, right? They comment and then they bounce.
Oh, okay.
Because they will watch it at work. They will watch it.
I see. That's nice.
So
I'm glad they must have been here for a while. I was going to say this is how many co-hosts are they in on this now?
All three of them, I think. I'm sure they remember Dustin. If you ask them about Dustin, they'd be able to. And V, he was, kind of like central. He was kind of like the original trilogy, right?
Sure.
But here's the difference. I would consider.
Wait, are we Raylo?
Dustin no. That's what I'm getting at. As I would say that Dustin was actually the later, like the sequel trilogy, and you, in my eyes, in the eyes of many who have good taste in film, are the prequel trilogy. So. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Well, Tom,
Jared.
Listen, every time you say that, it makes me feel exactly how Anakin Skywalker felt after his battle with Obi-Wan.
Like you just got burnt a lot. You got turned into a human hot dog.
Yes, exactly. That I have no more limbs, and I'm writhing in pain, dying, covered in lava.
I don't know. I really here's what I was gonna say about Obi-Wan right before before I commented on Uchiha. Right, with Star Wars you've got the canon and you've got the legends, right? The legends is kind of like their myths, the stories that they tell their kids, but they're like they talk about some of the same characters, they might be like, oh, Boba Fett did such and such or whatever, and here's a story about Boba Fett when he was a teenager or whatever, like some missing shit that we don't know. They'll talk about that in the legends, and then they can talk about this is the stuff that Han Solo told Kylo when he was a kid. He was like, "Oh, this fucking Boba Fett did such and such." Blah blah blah. It's just part of the legends. It's the
There's this one time where I was trying to make out with your mother, and a robot came around, and a droid came around.
Yeah. And that's the legends. It's not part of the canon, but it's like recognized that it exists within the same universe. It just didn't happen. It's stories that they would tell. Yeah. And kind of like it's almost like the religion of the Star Wars universe, the legends. You could associate it to that, especially with some of the absurdity of the legends. But now you've got the canon, which is the stuff that's defined as like, hey, this is some shit that happened, and it is part of the storyline. Now, when something deviates from the storyline to where it can no longer exist as part of the canon, for instance, Obi-Wan and Anakin getting into a fight over a pile of flaming oil, right?
Sure, yeah.
We know that Obi-Wan says, like later on, he's like, or no, I'm sorry, Anakin is like, the last time you saw me, I was but the apprentice and you were the master. But then now there's this interaction that kind of contradicts that, right?
Completely,
Yeah, there are some other things that obviously have come up over the course, and will continue to come up. I haven't watched the new episode yet, so no spoilers.
I won't say anything.
But so this sort of shit happens, and you have to realize they've deviated from this plot or from this storyline that we all know exists, and we know it's not like they can't say, well, no, this is canon. A New Hope is Legends, right? That's not canon, right? You can't change that. That's like the definitive. This is the shit that happened. The prequel trilogies, that shit happened. So any of the stuff that happens between, if it deviates from the storyline or from like what actually happened or whatever.
Can I ask you
that's
real quick?
Legends.
How do you look at Rogue One?
I think Rogue One is.
Where would you put that?
I would say it doesn't really matter. I don't remember seeing anything that really like told me that can't. Tell me. What happened? I don't remember what happened.
They tried. You remember because George Lucas was always so obsessed with basically having very little time in between, like having all the movies connect very closely, that kind of thing. Well, Rogue One connects, to the best of my recollection, collects right to
it's like
his entrance
literally...
onto Leia's ship.
Yeah.
Well, he just walks up after all of the stormtroopers kill the men in A New Hope. But in Rogue One...
No, it was a different room. There was more than one...
So they're saying it's a different room now.
Yeah, I would assume. That's the way that I saw
Well, see, here's the thing. As far as assumptions go, you know what that does. And to a lot of people, and it's never been clarified, forget, like, the quality of the film. I'm not even going to, I'm not doing that. But the point being, like, if one was to be, I suppose, less charitable than you are, it would be that he slayed all these men, and then what? Let's say in your case, okay, and then he goes into another room, but then, so he slays everybody, and then just puts his lightsaber away and is like, you know what, guys? I'm tired. You guys go kill the rest, and I'm going to come in like the badass after that.
Have you ever stopped and, like, checked your cell phone or whatever, like, after you did something?
In the middle of murdering people?
You gotta remember, like, Darth Vader is...
First of all, Tom, we know not to bring a cell phone to,
Yeah, you never bring a cell phone to
come on,
to a battle with
a situation.
Bunch of resistance, or what were they? Rebels? Yeah, rebel fighters or whatever on a ship on a diplomatic mission, right? You never check your cell phone at that point. But no. Like, there are times where, like, that was a big
ship. There are trackers,
Tom. If you're on that ship, and there's going to be more than one room full of rebel scum, right? So you're going to you're going to clear out a room in a hallway, or a hallway in a room, whatever order it happened. Because as I recall, it's a very cool scene, like seeing Darth Vader just, like, tear through this room. And this is like Darth Vader in his most, like, early in the thing, and he's like very much in his cool tough guy, very, like, mastered the Force. He's just like, but he's surrounded by stormtroopers who are out there doing God's work. And
so you're saying he's like, are you saying in spite of all of his power,
maybe he stopped and he looked out a window and he was just, like, taking in his empire, right? And he was just enjoying.
He's thinking to himself,
put your thing away.
You know what? I hired these guys. I gotta let them do something. Why am I risking? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like, if you're out there and you're just stacking bodies, you lose count at a certain point. Once you might hit your 1, which is, like, a big deal, and then you hit 10 and you're like, wow, that's a pretty big deal. Hey, happy anniversary, right? You've got 10. Then you hit 100, you're a centennial, you're a centurion, maybe is what you would call it if you kill 100.
Tom?
Bodies.
I'm listening to you, but hold on. I'm seeing the chat. I have to stop Monster Radio.
Let me just say this real quick.
Oh, okay.
You're a centurion. At that point, who cares how many you kill? It's not like you're still trying to get to 100. Once you get to 100, you're cool. You don't even have to count anymore. Like, who cares?
You do put your feet up after that. Yeah, that's
true. You put the lightsaber away. You take in the Empire. You lean back and you say, you know what, boys? You take on this next room. I'll be here if you need me. And they go. They clear the room somehow. Because stormtroopers don't have the best aim.
They have no aim. That's right.
So, but they somehow clear the room of rebel scum, and then Darth Vader gets to make his cool ass entrance, and he's like, "Where's fucking Leia?" And then he goes and he chokes the shit out of her, and he's like, "All right, throw her back on the ship, and let's get the fuck out of here. Where are those droids? With the plans."
Sure.
That's the thing. He had more important things to do to worry about than slaying rebel scum with silly hats. And so for that reason, I didn't assume. Maybe that's why I didn't realize that there was, like, a continuity situation. And
sure, I see.
But go ahead, please address Monster Radio, because he does. I like a lot of his Instagram. I don't know if you want to share your Instagram on here, Monster Radio. It's like that cryptid Ryan Rhino. I'm gonna do
it. It's mad underscore Hatter
at mad underscore Hatter 182. Share your thing in the chat. Follow him. He shares a lot of really cool shit. He's got a lot of Star Wars shit in there too. So lately he's been sharing the Obi-Wan stuff, and he's also been as upset with the continuity issues as I have. But go ahead and address what he's got in the chat.
Yeah, so the reason why it doesn't make sense what he's saying is that you're going
to challenge him, then I'm going to take.
Well, yeah, sure.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, sure, because he didn't have to draw back a bit. If he has the you're talking about someone who, if he has instructions, can still wreak havoc in whatever it like. You're talking about a guy who could literally do this and freeze a whole room. Essentially, a Zach Morris, the whole room. You know, he was that strong at the time. He can murder whoever he wants and not murder anybody he wants. So the long and the short of it is, there's no reason why he couldn't murder enough guys to get to, you know, someone he deemed worthy of keeping as a prisoner or telling him where he has to go to get the princess or whoever. And you know, and stop him. Because essentially, he lets the stormtroopers, you know, kill as many as they can actually aim to hit, and then he steps in.
Well, he knows their conversion data, right?
Right, yeah. He's
seen
the conversion rate, yeah. Still haven't fixed the aim on those guns, but, you know, the short sights or whatever. But long and the short of it is, there's no reason why he couldn't show self-restraint. He's like, oh, I just, like you just said, oh, I just killed 20 people. Let me kill these couple of guys. And, oh, there's a guy that's kind of interesting. Whoop. Let me freeze that guy. Like, there's all kinds of ways he could do. He literally, if he wanted to, if he couldn't control himself and was still high off of murdering everybody in the other room, Tom, then he could just see that the stormtroopers, you know, froze a bunch of guys and then kill them too. Like, he literally walks in, grabs the rebel guy and goes, where are the fucking plans or whatever? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, cool. And so he's taking the time to already interview and talk to, you understand? Like, and he still killed the guy. So the idea that he had to let someone else shine because he had to take prisoners or whatever,
Jerry, maybe
like
his arm was tired. Did you ever think of that? His arm was tired. He had a robot arm. Maybe it needed oiling. No, I think Monster Radio he's onto something about it playing politics. We got to realize.
Yeah, but Tarkin wasn't there, and he still killed people. You understand? If he
people
killed no one, he literally grabbed a guy, broke his neck, and killed him.
It's someone's story against Darth Vader's, and Darth Vader was
so that's the thing too.
He was.
But that's
like,
what I'm saying.
So it's gonna be his
Would
word
the stormtroopers
against
have tattled on him?
No, because the stormtroopers, they were buds, they were bros.
So he could have killed everybody he wanted and told the stormtroopers, if you tell anything, you'll be next. He could have done whatever he wanted. There was no Tarkin on that ship.
But
that's all bullshit.
What happens?
He could have done what he wanted.
We know that like the droids are notorious tattletales, except for R2. R2 is like like it says in that meme, he's the ride or die droid, right? But these droids, like, you could just tap into him and be like, hey, what the fuck happened? And then all of a sudden Leia in a hologram comes out, help me, Obi-Wan. Like they tell
help me, Obi-Wan, even though I called you Ben for an entire series and I knew who you were and you saved my life on multiple occasions for like a week.
Well, that's why she reached out to him.
You're my only hope.
All right.
You remember?
She reached out to him,
Obi-Wan, you fought with my father in the Clone Wars. Don't just forget that we were hanging out for like a week together on a show. And we also have to retcon why we took you away from manning Luke and stuff. And then
because Luke is not important. And like I think like in
no,
my
they hate
case, Luke. In my case, like I think that would be a wise decision because I really don't give a fuck about Luke. And I think that like the
Tom works for Disney, everybody.
No,
we also have to just let that be known.
Here's the thing. I think that I made this argument before that that Star Wars in its entirety is actually about Obi-Wan. He is the figure, the central figure. It's not Luke. It's not Skywalker. It's Obi-Wan, right? Because everything is central around Obi-Wan. I could sit here and I could make the argument. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't have.
I'm
I don't
interested.
have my notes.
I'm
I don't
not.
have my notes, but
it's okay.
I will argue that everything has Obi-Wan as the central. The
guiding hand.
Fixed. Yeah, it's like the central fixed points. The fulcrum is Obi-Wan, right? And I actually read a very interesting theory the other day, and about brought me to tears.
Wow.
The fight between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and the song called "Duel of the Fates." You think like it's a duel of the fates, Jedi versus the Sith, or good versus bad. But it's not. It's not the duel of those fates. It's the duel of the fate of Anakin Skywalker, and that actually the good lost because Qui-Gon was the master. He was the more
disciplined master
that Anakin needed. He was the figure that Anakin needed, like the father figure. It's almost like when you have a dad raising a kid versus like an older brother raising a kid.
Sure,
like that older brother is still just a son, right? He's still just
They
a kid.
mean well, but it's not going to
Right.
be a dad. Yeah.
So Qui-Gon, that was the duel of the fates, was whether Anakin would be raised by the father figure who could successfully train Anakin, or
Right.
the older brother who really wants to do well and he wants to fulfill his obligation to Qui-Gon.
But
his
isn't
master,
ready.
but
He's
isn't
not.
ready.
Yeah.
So in reality, the good guys lose in the duel of the fates. Anyways, that was just
Tom,
a
I'm
theory
going to
that I
throw
read the other
another
day and I
wrench
thought
in the
it was
works
pretty
on you
good.
there.
Hmm?
The Duel of the Fates was about those two. But did you know, at the end, technically, first draft, okay, Greedo.
He shot first.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bastard. That rotten bastard, Greedo.
That
You know
son of
who
a
cut
bitch.
off more limbs than anyone else in the Star Wars universe? Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan
yeah.
removed more limbs than anybody else throughout the entire series.
That's right.
All right, Jerry,
Yeah.
let's do our shot and then
One, a two, a three.
a 1 and a 2 and a 3.
Three limbs.
How many limbs does it take to get to the center of the Jedi-verse? 1, 2, 3. All right, Monster Radio is still he knows more about Star Wars than
I know,
do,
he's
so I
still
gotta give him
going,
credit.
The thing is, some of the Imperial officers were part of the Tarkin Initiative. That doesn't change the fact that he could have killed them if he thought they'd tattled. He could read people's minds, according to even these new
not all
hold
of
on.
them.
Hold
he didn't
on.
master that part of the Force.
Maybe, maybe not. But if you rewrite history to act like he wouldn't have just killed any motherfucker who told on him, I could also say that he could read their mind. So really, it's it's all up
so
for.
he says, and I think he's agreeing with me here. Obi-Wan basically only, or this
Oh, I
theory
agree
that
with you
read.
there,
So,
yeah.
and I think we're all in agreement that Obi-Wan only trained Anakin because of the promise he made to Qui-Gon. There's a song by Weird Al called it's the American Pie, but it's
Yeah, he wrote it about the prequels,
it's about the Phantom Menace, and at one point it says it's sung from the perspective of Obi-Wan, and he says, well, I knew who would win first place. Oh yes, it was our boy. But Obi-Wan was so anti Anakin from the beginning. He thought it was such a bad idea. And so there's some issue there, which is why Weird Al's song is not part of the canon. It's more of the legends.
Right.
But no, he but yeah,
Did you know Weird Al was my first concert, by the way?
Really? I've never been to
first
a concert
concert.
ever in my life.
It
Never
was
once.
for the tour where he was Amish Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
That was that tour, and he did costume change for all the big hits.
Good. Yeah, he seems like the kind of cool guy who would do that sort of thing.
Yeah, so he did like the Nirvana, song, and then a couple of songs that were like from that album, but he
Smells
didn't
Like
have
Teen
to.
Spirit. Yeah.
Right, but he didn't have to change clothes because it was other song, and then he would dress as fat, and then Amish Paradise,
So this was like
and then
95, 94 maybe.
I was in high school. Yeah, so I went high school girlfriend. Couldn't have been any later than 97.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been any later. Yeah.
So, anyways, Obi-Wan, he did it just because, and he was just not prepared to be
No.
trained in anybody. And just like Anakin should not have been training Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, but he did.
Also true.
And, yeah.
Yes, he did.
But that
Look
was
how that
Yoda's,
turned out.
that was Yoda's goof up, right? And
They're
I
all
think-
Yoda's goof ups.
Yeah, and
He's in
we all
charge
look
the whole time.
We look at Yoda and we're like, he's like this wise old hermit, but he really fucked everything up. Yoda is to blame for
Everything.
And you see Obi-Wan, he's really like shouldering the blame throughout this whole series. And rightfully so. I mean, he did make some mistakes along the way, but he's really like and meanwhile Yoda is off in the Dagobah system just sleeping
Yeah, he's just eating-
sleeping this whole situation off.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was to blame for a lot of that. I like to do my Obi-Wan impressions at any chance that I get. Gosh, what was it the other day? I did it. I have failed you. I said that one of the kids at church or whatever. I meant to give him something, and I had left it in the other room, and I was like, "Oh no, I got it." I was like, "I don't have it. I left it in the other room." I have failed you, Jordan. I have failed you. And I always love to do my. That I'm okay at it. I wish I was better, but time. I've only seen the
it's
prequel
okay.
trilogy.
I'll tell you what, though.
however
You're going to run into some real trouble because, from what I understand, in the Obi-Wan series,
Don't you
by
dare.
this
Don't spoil it.
no, hold on. By this episode, his British accent somehow is even thicker than it's ever been.
Well, it's
Like
because
apparent,
he's so depressed. He's
like it
sinking
just
into his
goes
own
from
thing.
no. Well, now he's in the fights and he's in the shit. You know better than me. I don't even watch the show. But the point I'm trying to make is like he's stressed. It's like his like the Britishness comes
Well,
out
it's
when he's
Scottish,
stressed.
first of all.
Well, for him, yeah. But I'm just saying he stresses it out. I was watching literally a guy from England review the show saying that he's more British than ever in his accent under stress.
You know
in
what?
this
I
episode.
consider here's how I justify why I like Obi-Wan the series is because I consider it Legends now at this point. Just like I consider much of like the Clone Wars, some of the stuff that like falls out of, I think it's somebody misremembering a situation that went down, and
okay.
and so it becomes, maybe there's some canon there, but for but there's quite a bit of Legends in there. Just like when you remember something, you're not really remembering the event in itself. You're remembering the last time you remembered it. So this is somebody remembering Obi-Wan's story, perhaps even Obi-Wan, and writing it and recalling it. And maybe it wasn't a black lady who was chasing him. Maybe it was
or maybe he
maybe
actually had some
competent
agency in
Yeah,
his
maybe
maybe
it was
memories.
somebody awesome who could act. So who knows? But I
Does
think
that bother
a lot
you?
of
Like
Obi-Wan-
for you, I know you're a prequel fan, but do you believe that Ewan McGregor was the better Obi-Wan? I mean, I know he's played him more often.
I think he's a great Obi-Wan. I certainly do.
But you said someone who can act, so I just thought.
No, I was talking. I think he can act. I think he does well. I think I was referring to Riva, the black chick from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's like 50%.
No, she's awful.
Yeah, I would say sometimes she does deliver, but I think the writing is
pizza.
And V and I hate to bring up V every time because I feel like I'm talking about like an ex-girlfriend in front of the.
No, it's fine.
But he and I were talking about how
I'm off screen, right?
Yeah, you're. No, are you gonna cry? You cry? But we were talking about Jared Leto and how a lot of his roles that he gets brought into, it's not his fault because we know Jared Leto can act, right? But
we've seen it. Yeah,
he's just got some really shitty judgment when he picks roles, and he picked Joker right after Heath Ledger did Joker and then died. So like, and then he had to pick a Joker that was just a fucking weirdo, like not even
do you think he knew
of any Joker that we've ever seen.
Do you think he knew, like, because maybe you sign on and they'll go, we're going to give you a lot of freedom because we want to make it different than Heath Ledger, and you go, oh, okay, so I could be my own Joker. That sounds good. And then you read the script and you're like, I'm sorry, I'm Eminem Joker, or what is this? I wonder if that happened to him a little bit. And then with Morpheus or whatever, Morbius, excuse me. Like,
I think that's one of the funniest internet memes that's ever come to pass at this point. The Morbin time and the Morbius 2. And hey, bring it back to the theater one more time. We were all busy that weekend. I think that's one of the funniest memes that has ever occurred. And I've been there since the beginning of internet memes. Like I was there. I was one of them. I was the pioneers of internet memedom. And back in 1996, right? And this is one of the funniest ones with him and the Morbin time, and I think it's just the funniest. And when he morbed all over everybody, I think it's brilliant. But the Jared Leto, as he was kind of like he's kind of bound by some of these roles because we've seen him. What was that movie he did with Denzel and Bug-Eye from Mr. Robot? That was like a Netflix exclusive. I thought he did really, really well in HBO Max. I thought he did really, really well in that movie. Like, and he's done really, really well in some other roles.
He did. That movie was terrible. But
he was like the saving grace of that movie because he was just like, and he played somebody who doesn't even look like him, but he did such a good job.
It's Morbius.
Right. He morbed all over Denzel Washington and Mr. Robot. So I know he's capable of good things, but then you see some of these movies and you're like, even him as Joker, I thought that was a pretty funny, like, I think it was a good depiction of something. Of Joker, not so much.
Yeah.
Like he was a good depiction of whatever he was doing.
Dude,
he was great at whatever he did. It was a funny character, a cool character.
If that was a whole different movie, right? Like, let's say that was not Joker, but instead a character in the Suicide, because no one knew. There's like 40 characters that have been in the Suicide Squad, right? You could have just added somebody.
Like a ton of them.
So imagine instead of being Joker for literally 5 minutes of screen time, Oscar Academy Award winning Jared Leto. I want to say that into the camera. As Academy Award winning for Dallas Buyers Club, Jared Leto was
that how you
the
pronounce
Joker for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, he really didn't have and his time
And then
on screen was just it was terrible.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Awful.
but then
With Common, he had Common the rapper.
yeah, and by the way, Common, how good is he? He gets murdered by John Wick and the Joker. That's pretty good.
You know what's funny
right?
is Steph, as I was laughing, and that was a genuine laugh because like I dropped my pen and like I guess I don't know if I was like so enthralled in the discussion about Jared Leto as Joker. I did the Joker laugh, and I think people thought I was doing an imitation of it, but that was actually me laughing at the situation where he does the whatever like that.
God,
Laugh
yeah. Oh man,
yeah.
where he's laying on the circle of knives
and
and he's just
him. Terrible fucking situation. And
how
then
many
they tried
knives?
To blame it. Remember, not enough apparently to save Harley Quinn. But and that's not something that he would have done anyways. He probably wouldn't have given two shits about Harley Quinn anyways. If you know anything about Joker, Harley Quinn lore or whatever, you don't really give a shit about Harley Quinn. But he fucking I don't even remember where I was going with that. But yeah, you're right. Like he could have done anything else. Joker didn't even need to be in that movie, frankly.
No.
Because what did he offer?
The only thing they did was, I think, give a way for Harley Quinn to escape. Like they had to figure. I almost wonder.
Anything.
True, but I'm just saying. I wonder if because it's bad writing, right? You have to go into. What we see on the screen was someone else's bad idea, right?
Right. Daniel Ayers is, I think, his name.
Yeah. Well, Did he write it too? Because I know he's the director, and he said that they made him do a lot of shit.
They made him change the movie and that was the argument that I was going to make just a minute ago when I was trying to figure out what I was talking about. He came out as soon as they did the Snyder cut and they allowed him to redo it. He's like, well, let's release the Ayers cut because you guys made me change all this bullshit. But like, that to me is something that I would say if I produced a piece of shit and then like all of a sudden they were like giving people a second chance to make a movie good.
Could you imagine
I would be like, well, release my cut because I fucking did something else with my movie and it didn't suck so bad when but you studio hacks, you made me do something. Then I don't know if there's a better Suicide Squad. I'll be honest, I like the Suicide Squad with all its faults. I thought it was a shitty movie, but I liked it.
Yeah. It has a place in our hearts here in the old Morgan household.
What was that, like your first date movie or something?
Yeah, I think it was our first. We saw Deadpool and Suicide Squad. Okay. And so essentially, I as Deadpool, Harley Quinn as my wife, kind of thing. Our crazy matches, like your crazy matches, are crazy, and we had a in fact. At different Comic-Cons, artists who are not the artists who do the real thing, like draw stuff and make you buy them. Well, not make it, but,
You
so anyway,
here, to draw doodles and shit.
Yeah, so here's what I got. Oh, it doesn't even show up, does it?
You got to kind of put it in like right in front of your face. Bring it right in front of your face.
Oh, dang. Well, anyway, it's Harley Quinn posting up on Deadpool. And it says, your crazy matches my crazy. And that's essentially...
And you don't have that framed? Like, did you
it was framed. It fell off the wall and the frame cracked. So I just haven't fixed it yet. Yeah, unfortunately.
Shame on you for not getting that fixed, Jerry. Well, let's do the thing. Let's do the thing real quick.
Yes, introduction.
Mike and Manitoba. I'll just like lazily do it. Mike and Manitoba, Monster Radio. No, welcome to the chat. Thank you all for being here. We're very happy to have you here. First and foremost, Mike in Manitoba, who made it in first. He was the first one to make a comment. I want to make it a point to thank Mike for for being first again and being taking back his throne.
He's right there.
Monster Radio, who occasionally pops in, he'll just make his presence known and then he'll take off because he's got his own show going on. And we want to advertise that. So if you want to share that in the chat, I'll say it out loud in a moment. So for the people who are listening on the podcast, Chris Rose, Efren Flores, Jacob, Megabit, Steph, with her hot mom, Joseph Bauer, I gotta say it, Critter, who's I think she's gone now, and then Heart Sutra, of course. Also want to make a special mention to the super fan Ben, and who could forget the FBI guy in the chat who is listening right now from the drunk tank, having just protested at in Oregon, or no, it was in Salt Lake City, right, where he went and protested the gay pride parade or whatever, and they had like all those feds show
Wait, no,
up.
that was Idaho.
Idaho. I knew it was one of those states, one of those
Yep.
flyover states, right? Even like
I
the
just figured you
flyover
had more
states
info on
when
something
we
else,
talk
yeah.
shit about other when we talk shit about other flyover states. No, you're the fucking flyover state. We here in Kentucky, we're no. But yeah, they all got busted or whatever. But then they're all wearing like the same outfits as the people who arrested them, and then they're still wearing their mask, and they've got a megaphone that says FBI on the side that like the cop who arrested them is trying to hide.
It says IBF, actually.
Yeah. So, well, that's the Australian FBI who came to arrest
Oh.
you for hooking up with that girl. But like, he was waiting in the corner for you to show up, and then
It was his apartment.
and then he
it was a
would
trap
come
the whole
out
time.
and he would say, "You brought some snacks for me? You know, why don't you have a seat over there?" And then you have to sit down and get browbeated by Australian Chris Hansen. Oh, hey, cunt! You brought some snacks for me.
Tom,
Have a seat.
it would just be arms like this. So what are you doing? Why are you?
Yeah, you're talking about. I have to change it. It's the first person you see yourself
What are you doing?
again. Oh, fucking Pop Squad. I haven't seen. I miss him. I miss.
I know those few that came out, those 3 or 4 that dropped at once. That was cool, but
I'm telling you, you gotta
know.
watch that. You gotta watch that People versus Preds. Like I watched through his whole catalog. I burned through it in like a couple days. He's very funny. The piece of shit
Because that's the thing.
scumbag
It
guy.
looks like shorter videos.
Yeah,
you know, I'm getting
some of
so
them are
used
very
to
short,
the.
some of them are pretty long. Yeah, because you're
Oh,
probably
really?
used to Muncie and Indianapolis, who they
That's
live
now-
stream this
yeah.
shit. It's like 4 hours long, so you're there watching Lord of the Rings, the Twin Towers, and it's actually just it's Eric
two
yelling
dongs.
at it's Eric and the 2 big girls yelling at some predator.
Can I just say Eric is the worst?
Really? You don't like
yeah.
him?
Well, here's the deal. Remember what I told you?
It's because he's black, isn't it, Jerry?
No, it's the dreads actually. But
well, it's because he's black, right?
No, so okay.
Racist.
He'll start off like this level. Because here, I want the information. You understand? I want to get deep into the psyche. I want the guy to stick around longer. I don't want to hear 5 minutes of someone getting yelled at and then running into a car and flying away. Although, like when they flee, it is kind of funny. Like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. All right.
I like when he
Right?
really yells at them when they're yelling away. You fucking scumbag, you piece of shit.
Oh yeah,
fuck
when
you."
they're finally running. Yeah. Like if they're chasing them through a store or something, that's totally different. It's let it go. You know what I mean? Because it's over. You're not gonna. Are they gonna run through the whole Walmart and then stop? I mean, maybe, but you might as well yell, right?
Yeah,
That's
we gotta
cool.
make a scene.
Yeah, I'll take the scene. I love the scene. That's the DAP thing. I just that won me over. It was great. The problem with him is he doesn't seem to, and by the way, he runs like 7 Predator channel. I don't know, whatever. He should know. It's crazy to me that he doesn't seem to get it. Like, so okay, and the thing is, it's not even that he doesn't get it, but it's all about timing, Tom. So like.
Yeah.
Here he's at a certain level, you know. He's talking to him in a certain way. The girls are talking to one of the girls is talking to him a certain way. They've managed to get this guy like he just
The fat one. Which one's the fat one?
Yeah.
Come on, Jerry.
The one with back boobs. Anyway,
Yeah, the other one's all right. I like the other one.
I mean, she's THICCC, but you know,
she is a butter. She's a butter body, right?
yeah. Yeah, she has a sweeter face, you know.
Yeah.
But you also see her and you go, yeah, you are a mom or whatever, you know. You are a Midwest mom or whatever, yeah. So here's the thing. So they'll have him, this guy at a particular point where he's finally starting to say, you know, he's starting to admit something, maybe even get into his psyche. You know what I'm saying? And then he will say something slightly off from what maybe was in the chat like 10 days ago that they've all memorized 10 seconds before. And then he goes, "You didn't say that, you fucking piece of shit." You know, and he's like yelling at him. And listen, I watch these guys and I want this, you know, I have my anger too, but you have to, it's the good cop, bad cop. You have to pull the bad cop away when the good cop can come in, and the girls will be.
He's very overpowering.
Yeah, the girls will have him right there. Some guy, he'll be like, yeah, so, okay, listen, I was talking to these girls in this chat, and I know I said it was because I have a daughter, and I wanted to find out how to talk to my daughter, but here's what, and he'll go, that's not what you have a daughter, you fucking piece of shit, you fucking, and you're like, and now it's all chaos. He's like, why are you cussing? I was watching one today where it was an independent wrestler, and they had him outside of Walmart. And
what does that tell you about Walmart? That like every single one of these catches takes place at a Walmart.
It's either Walmart or CVS. Every single one. Every single one, dude. I don't know what that's. I don't know.
It's never like a Kohl's, right? Like it's never like it's never someplace where you're like you take your wife and you're like, hey, let's go buy you a nice purse. It's always like Walmart. Or it's always Walmart or CVS.
Could you imagine, by the way, you're sitting at
a morning after pill, right?
Dude, you're sitting down at a nice restaurant. You're about to get served like fresh cod out of the river that is adjacent to the restaurant.
Like, serve the pepper for you,
And the guy serving the pepper suddenly has a dreadlock dude with two fat bitches right next to him going, "Excuse me, Steve Dave 69."
That's not what you said the other day, piece of shit. I really like the one time he goes, the kid's name, or the guy, not the kid, but the guy's name was Kevin. And he goes, Kevin, like on Home Alone. And then he goes, Kevin, why'd you come here to meet up with a 13-year-old girl, Kevin? I thought that was pretty funny. No, I like him. He said something the other day that I was like, oh, he's gonna catch the business for this one. He said, somebody. Oh, he was trying. Like the dude was talking about. He didn't say anything about having sex with the girl, but he said he was gonna like smoke meth with her. And of course,
I think I saw it. Okay.
Lost his mind about that, but he said he's like
he had the yellow card that said "I make bad decisions," right? That one.
Yeah, the bumper sticker on the back.
Yeah.
But he was just like he's like it's not even like it doesn't even make me that mad when they're just here to like have sex with the girl. But when they're, which is also really bad too, like he caught himself when he said that. But so I was like, oh, he's gonna catch some hell about that because like. Which is worse, like hooking a girl on crystal meth or fucking a girl, right, who's underage? They're both heinous, like in their own ways.
Well, here's the thing, right?
But anyways, here's to
Eric, your lives.
Right? Here's to Kevin and not getting little girls hooked on crystal meth.
Come on, Kevin.
Why'd you come here to have sex with a 13-year-old girl, Kevin?
I'm a black guy in Indiana with dreads with these two fat white girls, and you're the one in trouble?
You know what's really funny is, like, he runs the channel Predator Catchers Indianapolis.
Indiana, right? Yeah.
And then the two white girls run the Muncie, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. So it's like the black guy with dreadlocks is Indianapolis, and then the suburbs is the two fat girls. Two fat white girls, right? I think that's pretty funny, but I think one of them is at least a little pretty, and but yeah, she is definitely a butter body. She's got like a really cute face, but then like you said, I like how you corrected yourself. You're like, oh yeah, you are a mom from the Midwest. Like we have to distinguish like
there is
moms
a real
on the East Coast
there
and
really
then
is
moms in the mid coast or in the middle of the country. What are we? You know what we're gonna do real quick? Give me 1 minute, Jerry, if you wanna. If you want to talk to the fans and just tell them about your day or something, I have to take a really quick piss and then we'll get on.
Well, I would actually like to know, since we just talked about it for this long, we saw a lot of activity in the chat. Oh no, you can go pee. All
right, you do.
Yeah. Well, because we were just talking about Star Wars for that long, and albeit it was mostly Monster Radio, there was a lot of chitter chatter, and then suddenly we started talking about Predator Catchers, and I think. Yeah, it just became King of Jordan and Mosley wave. Hey guys, and that was the only reaction. Does anybody here watch these Predator Catcher channels? What do you think of them? Like, do you have a favorite? Is there like a catchphrase? Of course, we were going over before with like Pod Scott, where it's always Nito's hands out in the front like this because you never see him. And then the wackadoo shit that we were just talking about, like. Oh man, wrong time to put me on camera. Anyway, does anybody actually watch those? Do any of you have a favorite or like even a favorite episode of one that you saw that was the craziest fucking thing you've ever seen or something like that? Anybody? I'd be curious to know. You know what? I asked these questions. CC unit. What is that? I don't know what that is. CC unit? Oh, the Canadian. Is that what that is? The Canadian Catcher 2. Okay. Or is CC unit actually the Canadian Catcher? I don't know. Okay, Chris Rose. Nope. All right. Well, that's okay. Well, they're really weird. Oh yeah, DAP is great. Monster Radio. It's too bad. I don't know what they're doing now. I guess they're coming back to YouTube, but they're kind of on suspension or something. I don't know what's going on. Report of a 9mm handgun. Oh goodness. I asked the checks. I wasn't sure. I knew. Well, to be fair, I actually did know that some people watched the Predator stuff, and I wanted to see how many. And
most of these guys. I know I talked to Megabit about it all the fucking time. Like he and I will share. He's the one who got me on PvP, Predator People versus Preds, and he sent me one about the dude who he was at a CVC or CVS trying to buy stool softener because he was yelling about, but he was all fucking jacked up on meth at the time, and so he was talking. He's like, I gotta poop. And then he goes and fucking crashes his car. So the whole thing seemed staged to me, but then the cops show up and actually arrest the guy. If you watched it, you would be like, this is so absurd. There's no way that this is a real thing. But then you find out that it is. But then you watch all this other stuff. I actually messaged the PvP guy on Instagram, and I asked him. I said, hey, I'm trying to tell my friend about this one catch that you. I was like, out of 180 catches, I was like, I need you to tell me about this one catch. There was one where it was the one I was telling you about earlier, about where he's like, all right, have a shitty life, you piece of shit scumbag, and he storms out and he's like, but tell me I need you to say this line for me. I was like, what's that one? Which episode is that? And he wrote back, which is with a bunch of M's, ... And then I never heard anything from him, and I was like, well, thanks a lot, you piece of shit scumbag. But I didn't say that to him. But
you should have.
But yeah, the Asian meth twink is what Megabit said. But yeah, I watch them all, man. If I pulled up the only channels that I subscribe to on YouTube aside from Monster Radio, right, is which he mentioned it a minute ago. He's let me pull it up because Monster Radio with Ryan Tremblay. Yeah, go ahead and pull that. PvP actually had a catch earlier. I'm gonna watch it after this. It's a 12-minute long catch, and busted, disgusting, and you can't be trusted. I got one here from Colorado Ped Poacher. If you look at my main screen, it obviously shows us live right now. It shows a picture of you with your He-Man humping, dry humping or whatever. But then it has PvP, CPP, Colorado Ped Poachers. It's got CC Unit because that dude's pretty funny. He's kind of a goofball. Live right now, your boy Eric from PCI. He's on right now.
Okay.
I have Cart Narcs because I just like I like that shit. Sure. Cart Narcs. If you've never watched Cart Narcs, you totally should. Have you ever seen it? Okay.
No, I don't even know.
Oh my goodness! It's this guy who walks around and he goes to department stores or supermarkets or whatever, and he patrols the parking lot for people who don't bring their carts back to the corral. And he's got this little waving the flight what the hell are they called? The air traffic, not the air traffic controllers, but the flight line guys who wave you in or whatever.
Yeah.
He's got one of those lights, and he goes. And he doesn't have a siren or anything, so he just makes the noise with his mouth. He goes, and he flags them down. And he says, "Hey, that's not where the carts go." And then it's always this altercation where people fucking lose their mind about him calling them out. And then he'll say, "Just bring the cart back." Cart. Yeah, he's like, bring the cart back to the cart corral, and then they're like, no, that's what they pay these guys to. You see, the worst of the world.
My god, wow.
And then one of them, he keeps moving the cart behind the guy's car. Every time he tries to back out, he keeps slamming into the cart. But it's so funny. Yeah, so Stephicus, of course, she's seen it. The Cart Narcs is funny. Oh, and then he gives them these stickers or these magnets for the back of their cars that says Lazy Bones. He refers to anybody who doesn't bring their carts to the corral as a lazy bones. And there's like a website that he has set up, or like a lazy bones hotline where they can call and they can get information about how to put their carts back and stuff. It makes people so mad. But he'll stick the magnet to their car if they try to take off and they won't do anything. And then they get out and they get furious because he put some shit on the car.
Then he gets a sticker.
But it's all on there. He records it all, and it's all, the altercations are always so funny. He's such he's a performer. Like, he's really good at what he does. He's mastered his craft. Then I got Knoxville predator catchers, Oklahoma predator prevention, Beavis and Butthead do the universe trailer here, and then down the rabbit hole. And then it kind of goes into some other like lawn stuff.
Nice.
But like those are like, when I open my screen, the first 5 or 6 things that I see are card knocks,
it's the ones you watch the most.
Predator catchers, right? So that's all I see. And every time I see a new one and I watch a couple of them, I'm like, yeah, these guys are all right. So like my entire subscription is just, like I said, monster video and then predator catchers, and that's it. And then so like that's how I spend most of my time. I'll sit there, like especially after everybody goes to bed, I'll sit there and I'll just chill out on the couch and I'll just watch my predator. I've got my hearing aids hooked up to Bluetooth, so even like when I'm washing the dishes and shit, I'll just turn one on and I'll throw the phone off to the side and I'll let it play and I'll listen to these predator catcher videos. So I've seen and heard all of them, and I'll tell you what, my favorites are still Pop Squad, and this may be because I'm a little bit nostalgic, right? Pop Squad, DAP, and To Catch a Predator obviously is always going to be my number one.
Oh my goodness, how could you deny it?
I spent an entire semester of my Master of Divinity, right? Just I would have that running in the background. That's all I did. So of course I've got a soft spot for them. So DAP, Pop Squad, and CPP, because CPP was the first one I ever watched. I was like, people do this, and that's when I kind of like I realized. But now People versus Preds is the one that I seek out. When I see it, I get excited. I get butterflies and shit.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to
Mike says the U.S. full of predators or something. Monster Radio says, yeah, basically. It's unfortunate. It's a problem. Like, people think that we have a problem with shooters, but like for a per capita, and for like if you look at how many guns we have and the amount of shootings that we have, we're actually like better off than most nations are with shootings, right?
Oh yeah, Tom, if you take 5 cities out of the entire United States, we have the same safety record of like Sweden.
Yeah, but for predators, we do have a ton of fucking predators, and that's a problem. Like, and it's I was talking to somebody the other day. They were saying, this is a dude that like I trusted his judgment up until the other day. We were talking about gun control. He says, do I think that the age limit should be raised for certain for handguns and semi-automatic rifles? He said, yeah, I think it should be 21. And like at that point, I tuned him out because I said, well, that's a problem. I said, I agree that 21 is a pretty good age for most things. I think the age of consent should be raised to 21 because your brain is not finished forming until that point. So I think 21 is a pretty good age for age of consent, alcohol. What's the other one? Like any kind of narcotics or drugs,
like weed.
I think 21 is pretty good. Porn, I think it shouldn't be 18 or older. I think it should be 21 and older. Granted, I don't think that porn should exist to begin with, but it's going to be it's a thing that's going to exist regardless. But I think he said that, and I was like, well, then the age for military draft or military enlistment should be raised from 18 to 21. Then that's like the most absurd fucking argument I've ever heard.
Well, it's the same as like 21. You could go off and get killed, but you couldn't have like a beer before you die or whatever. Not that should be like some important thing, but it's just absurd on its face, Yeah,
no, I agree. Are we ready to do the Whoobies, Jerry's?
I'm ready.
Jerry's, because we're almost over there. But yeah, Monster Radio. We will see you later, brother. Thank you for tuning in. He says he's got a whole adult thing he's got to do doing dishes.
Oh well,
so
thank you.
While you're doing that, brother, I need you to go ahead and listen to PvP.
Take a sit right there.
Versus Predator. Oh. And then Megabit says Samuel from CP Catcher. He's a good one. He's one of my favorites too, as well. He's the one. He's so funny because like when he gets caught up, he'll do this thing where he's like, "You're funny, brother. You're funny. You're a funny guy." Because he's just like this goofy Canadian guy. So he gets himself caught up. Yeah, he's a really sweet guy too, like Megabit said. All right, let's do the Whoobies, Jerry.
All right, let's see. Here we go. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. So Tom, okay. 3 shot, 1 killed at Columbus, Ohio community center being used as blank. What is the blank?
3 shot, 1 killed at a Columbus community center currently being used as a blank. I would say 3 shot, 1 killed. Well, if I were to believe everything that the news told me, I would say that 3 shot, 1 killed at a Columbus community center being used as a gun show location. That would be my guess, though there has never been a single shooting at a gun show, so I know that's not true.
Right.
So
3 shot,
1 killed at a Columbus community center, currently being used as a furry convention is what I hope.
Yeah. See, I was hoping for something that funny. But no, it's 3 shot, 1 killed at Columbus, Ohio Community Center being used as a cooling center amid heat wave. Tom, here's what happened. As they were near the pool. Oh,
it's so cold in here. I'm going to kill somebody in this heat wave.
Dude, hold on. As the perp was near getting out of the pool, he had pool wiener and got laughed at. And then everybody around him told him to chill out, cool down.
Did they do it?
Doing an impression. Voice? Hold on. Doing an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in the famous Batman and Robin Forever or whatever. Yeah, Batman and Robin movie.
The
with
Academy
George Clooney.
Award snubbed.
The Academy
Batman
Award
movie.
snubbed movie. So they said, "Hey, you with the pool wiener, chill out, cool down." I can't. All right, chill out, cool down. And then he shot them all, which makes him a hero.
You know, I have to admire a man who can get out of a pool and like at the same time while being ridiculed because you know, I imagine him having somehow stashed a gun, right, in order to pull this
right
off. You know, it's not like like it says he got out of the pool, he had pool wiener, the people were making
he went over to
he went to his car saying, "Oh, I'll show you, you fucking assholes."
Yeah, you said, "I'll come back an hour later."
Right, he said, hey, they said, "Haha, nice pool wiener, fag," and then he pulled out a gun and said, "Cool out," and he shot him. Right, like that's pretty. Yeah, everybody chill is what Gary Newman said.
The last thing, I don't know if you knew this. The
What
actual
happened?
reason. Well, they asked for his story, so he told them, and they said, "So wait, so you shot them because they made fun of your pool winner?" He was like, "No, that was a terrible Arnold impression."
They were all doing the impression.
They were all doing the impression. All of them.
He's Austrian,
All of
if I
them.
recall, right? Like
He is, yeah. Right.
So that's why he was so offended by it.
He was just so mad. He's like, "Here I am with this pool wiener, and I have to listen to this."
Cool off.
Cool down. Chill out.
Chill out. Hasta la vista. Somebody did the hasta la vista. He's like, that's not
Yeah,
even
and it
the
was
right movie.
It was not even the right. No. They're like, "Do you know what your wiener just said? Hasta la vista, baby."
Chill out.
Chill out. Cool down.
Chill out, dickwad. Your foster
That's it.
parents are dead.
Florida man, Tom. We got a Florida man this week. Florida man who gave kids blank for sex gets 40 years for child porn.
Florida man
who gave kids blank for sex gets 40 years for child porn.
Gets 40 years for what?
Child porn.
Well, so it feels like they should have been given. So here's my mind, right? As somebody who hasn't read this story.
Okay.
Florida man who gave kids something for sex, right? He gets
Right.
40 years for child porn. So I feel like there's more going on, right?
Okay.
He didn't give them blank for child porn, like to have sex with one another. He was having sex with them, right?
Well,
so I'm wondering.
Not
I'm
necessarily.
seeing some issues with perhaps the prosecution, but
Well,
also.
okay.
Let me think.
Because I'm going to just throw it out there. You could be a producer. Is all I'm trying to,
But he can take part in it, but also. But he gave.
Well, I'm just saying there's more than one way to get in trouble for child porn. is what I'm getting at.
Did you ever see that meme of the guy says, "Hey, I'll give you a sucker if you come in my van," and then the kid says, "I'll come in your mouth if you give me the whole bucket."
Jesus,
it's awful, but it's one of my favorite memes. It's so funny.
Oh my goodness! All right.
Oh my gosh! All right, Florida man who gave kids
blank for sex.
I'm gonna go
gets
with
40 years. I like how Gary Newman came up and just said Jewish, all in caps. Be right back.
Everybody chill. Jewish. So I'm gonna tell you why I chose this before I tell you the answer.
Okay.
Florida man who gave kids something for sex gets 40 years for child porn. So here's my thing. Okay. How funny would it be if he gave them something that was not cool for something that was also not cool? Because like no kid will ever be like, "Oh, I got fucked in the butt. That was awesome," right? Like by an adult. No kid would ever say that, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Like you look back at any kid who's ever been molested, never have you heard of like a kid who's like, "Oh, I remember being molested by my uncle. It was awesome." You know, like it's always like some traumatic experience. So that in itself is the bad news, right? But then you've got Megabit says Robux, which would make sense, and I would imagine that might even be a reasonable answer. But I would say like if it would be even funnier for the sake of the story, not so much for the event that happened, but like it would be funnier if it was something bad also for something bad. So I would say Florida man who gave kids HIV for sex gets 40 years for child porn. That is my answer.
Wow.
But
all right.
like,
well,
you understand why I gave you the answer.
Yeah, I see where you're coming. Yeah. Yeah. You have to make awful on top of awful, right? Well, Florida man who gave kids hush money for
Robux.
sex. For sex gets 40 years for child porn. And here's the
right.
Did you know? So they haven't quoted in the article. Just to be clear, he recorded illegal sex acts with his cell phone and often paid the children hush money to keep them quiet. He sent one child a sex toy at their direction. They had to use it on a video. Okay, all right. Anyway, Tom, here's what he had to say. He actually talked to reporters, if you can believe it. He said, "I guess I really don't know teenage girls. I thought giving them money would actually shut them the fuck up."
If that were true, all of us married folks would be like, we'd be way better off, right? I have to say this.
Last thing, Tom. I'm just sorry.
Ahead,
he said, "I guess I have a lot to learn."
Well, he's got 40 years.
Sorry, yeah, he's got 40 years to think about it.
He's gonna have to read up on his what makes kids shut.
40 years. I guess.
I'll tell you
hold
what,
on.
like,
wait, I gotta stress this again.
Please.
I guess I really have a lot to learn.
He didn't learn his lesson the first time. No, you gotta do the No Country for Old Men, where he's like,
oh yeah.
I guess he's got a lot to learn. So I watched that movie again the other day. Anytime it's on, this is
Great
so
movie.
Like for years. There are certain movies where I will always stop if it's on TV and I'm flipping through channels and I'm scrolling through the guide or whatever. If I see a movie on and it's only certain movies, I will. There's nothing you can do to get me to not watch that movie. Right. One of them is Starship Troopers. One of them is The Heat, starring Sandra Bullock and
that one. I thought you meant
McCarthy.
Heat with
no,
yes.
The Heat.
Yeah.
And then another one is obviously No Country for Old Men. Like as many times as I've seen that movie, and a friend of mine referred to it. He's not like a fan of the movie, but he's like, you know what? I did like that movie because it was a quiet movie. And I like that about that movie. It's just very like calm, mellow. As much chaos is going on.
Do you still speak with that friend?
Kind of like, yeah. Oh, occasionally. Yeah, he was a friend of mine from the army. He's one of those guys that I spoke like very angrily about because he made first sergeant and I was like ahead of him. Like I was doing better than he was, and then all of a sudden he just like
Tom,
boom, 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 surpassed me. And that
you were Anakin. And
I was Anakin. No, I was removed from the Jedi. I was not even allowed on the Jedi Council.
I see. Right.
So I was more
Well,
like
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
fucking Ahsoka, I guess. I don't know. I was like somebody in the background, and everybody else was getting promoted ahead of me, but I was actually removed from the. Granted, if I were still in the Army today, I would be a sergeant major. I guarantee it. But okay. I didn't.
I believe you.
They kicked me out. I appreciate that, Jerry, because there's no way I can prove that. But I was on track for it. But I would say that I was on track for it, and I could have been a sergeant major right now, which would have been tight. But it would have been another 3-year commitment. Anyways,
that's tough.
But some other people said some funny things in the chat that I wanted to address. Florida man who gave kids voter ID. for sex gets 40 years. That was Mike.
$19 Fortnite cards.
That's that's a pretty good one. The King of Jordan said, Florida man who gave kids $19 Fortnite cards. Now I have to tell you this: Fortnite cards don't come in that increment, right? Like
denomination.
You have to buy them as like $20. So clearly this guy he had to use $1.
He played for a minute and he's like, you know who'd this be better off for? My child sex ring.
Sex, yeah.
I was sex ring.
Here's something terrible for you. If you've ever had to sit in line for a long ass time, I hopped onto the Sony store because my oldest signed up for a Minecraft subscription or whatever, and every month I get charged $4 for it. And I told him he needed to fucking end it. He needed to end that subscription because he didn't even play it. But I said you need to end that subscription because I'm not going to pay $4 every month for you to.
Well, if you're not playing.
And even if he was playing it, he would owe me $4 and some change. But I told him last month, I said, end it. And he said, okay, I did. I did send it or whatever. I was like, all right, okay. So I get charged for it today. And so I chewed him out or whatever. I'm like, hey, man, you told me that you fucking ended this thing. You didn't. I just got charged another $4 and whatever. And so he went up and he said, I ended it. I tell you. And it runs off. And then so I hop onto the online robot thing. And I'm like, hey, I want to cancel a subscription and I want to request a refund because it's bullshit. I'm over it. And so the robot sends me, he says, hey, okay, we're going to put you in touch with this other guy, with somebody who's real, right?
A real person,
not AI. Yeah. And I get put in line. It says there are 266 people ahead of you. And I'm like, okay, no big whoop because I've got other things to do. So I'm sitting on my computer doing homework and shit. And I hear this noise and I'm watching Discovery Channel, right, or whatever on my fucking second screen over here. And I hear this noise that I don't recognize, and I'm like, maybe it's the TV because it was These Woods Are Haunted, and I was like, maybe it's on the show. It was like this weird noise. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Something I had never heard before, but something very distinct. And I think, well, maybe it's on the TV, and then I hear it again, and I'm like, what in the fuck is that? I'm looking at all my browser windows to see if it's anything on there. Nothing. Happens again, and it suddenly dawns on me. I'm like, oh. Maybe it's my turn because I had watched it kind of count down a little bit, but then I like minimized the screen, realized that's what it was, and it said chat has ended, whatever. And so I'm like, oh, I fucking knew it. I should have like jumped on there as soon as the first time I heard it. But anyways, I'm like, okay, well I can wait again because I've got more homework to do, right? So I boot it up again, and I just say, hey, send me to the guy, and it says, it looks like we've already tried to talk to you about this, so try again another time. And I was like,
what?
Okay, well, let me close out of the windows and I'll start from scratch. So I start from scratch all the way. And since it has my information or whatever, as soon as I go through the whole process and I get to the screen where it's like, okay, we're going to put you in queue, all of a sudden it says, we've already talked to you about this. Try again another time. And I was like,
what does that even mean?
Because I
should have put in something else. No, but the point is,
I wouldn't let me do anything. That was it.
I understand. It's not you. I'm just saying, just because I talked to you about it doesn't mean like, okay. All right, let's say it was a different part of life, like you just keep punching the Cheetos out of someone's face, and they go, I need to talk to you about how you're punching the Cheetos out of my face. And then you go, and then you talk about it, and you don't really listen, and you don't acknowledge that they don't like it, and then you punch them in the face, and next time they put a Cheeto in their mouth, and they'd go, well, I need to talk to you again about this whole punching me in the Cheeto face. And you'd go, no, we talked about this already. Try again another time. That doesn't even make any sense, because if I try it, why if you won't listen to me now, why would you listen to me later if the reason for not listening to me is you talked to me about it already? You will have still talked to me about it already in a week.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
They have limited Indians
Dude,
on the rape
I
bus.
think I got to say, I think the sound was of them shitting in the street, and you didn't know. That's
it
what
was them getting raped on the bus, Jerry. It was a very distinct.
That's
it was
why
a very
it's
distinct sound that I wouldn't recognize. Jerry, what's the next one?
Dude, do you know what that sounds like, by the way?
What? I do because I heard it earlier.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like when someone's shitting in the streets. All right. Anyway.
A similar noise, depending on the hole, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, King of Jordan, have a good day at work with your Mountain Dew Baja Blast Hard Seltzer.
See you
Which
later,
sounds
dude.
delicious, honestly. Those are all things that I like.
Hard seltzer? Is that a thing?
I do drink hard seltzers. I drink White Claws,
Holy
right?
shit.
No laws,
Wow.
dude.
I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
I drink hard liquor a lot, but I also drink White Claws socially.
Okay. Tom, woman told boyfriend, "Don't play with me," before doing this. Woman told boyfriend, quote, "Don't play with me," unquote, before doing this.
I read this story, I think.
Okay.
I know it's one of two things.
Okay.
It's either stab or shot him. But I will say, because I know she killed him or tried to kill him. So I will say, woman told boyfriend, "Don't play with me," before she looked upon her scattered jacks on the hardwood floor, and
Jax is in the.
Like the
Okay.
jacks, and then she
I was
dropped
wondering
them.
if it was the snack. All right.
No, Jacks? That's not. You mean? Are you talking about Cracker Jacks?
No, JAX. It's a Cheeto
I don't
Puff
know what that is.
alternative
Why are
from
you
like
talking about
Oxford.
Cheetos twice now? Like, are you sponsored by?
It was on the
Cheetos
brain, and then you
all of
say
a sudden?
Jax, dude. I mean, what am I?
No, I'm talking about
you
like
know?
Jacks, the toy, like their little like, you know,
I
like
understand.
remember when they stormed?
No, I get what you're
Normandy?
saying now. I get it.
And there were like all those Jacks all over the beach.
Mm-hmm.
There's some World War II vet out there listening who's like, they were fucking Jacks. They were to prevent ships from. They were to prevent, like telling me military strategy, scolding at me from across the podcast universe in 100 years. Some World War II vet who somehow retained his sentience.
You'll be talking to them through the movie White Noise.
That's what's gonna happen. Some alien or whatever he abducted, and then they traveled through time. He's actually still young. He's younger than me now because he traveled through at the speed of light. That's how it works. So I would say she said, "Don't play with me," as she threw her marble down. Or no.
Through the okay.
No, it wasn't Jax. I misunderstood. I misunderstood what I was seeing. It was because I'm a fortune teller, right? But I see things incorrectly sometimes. So she said, "Don't play with me," before she took her fucking slammer and slammed it down on a stack of pogs, right?
Wow, that is okay.
That's what she said. And then he, of course, he did. You know what happens.
He played with her, yeah. Tom, okay, so she said, "Don't play with me," before stabbing him to death. But Tom,
with the slam.
You know, the cops, I don't know if you know this, the cops, they investigate, you know.
What?
And so they investigated.
So this wasn't in Uvalde, Texas, clearly.
No. They entered the home in this one. She said, "Don't play with me." Turns out, Tom, the game was who can stab the other to death first.
Well, she clearly had the advantage.
She said, "Don't. I'm very good at this. I would tell you to ask my last boyfriend, but you know."
He's also been stabbed to death.
He's also been, he did not believe me in the stabbing game.
She had 40 years to think about it, right? She had a lot to think about.
She's now, Okay, here we go. Oh, wait, is this the last one I have? Okay, I got two. All right, I got two more. Here we go.
Yeah, we got time.
This one is just okay. First case of in India, the first case of cat-to-human COVID-19 transmission has been documented. I don't have a blank for this one. I just wanted to say that when they asked how it happened, turns out the veterinarian ate the stool sample, and when they asked why, they said, "It was my first day."
That's my wife.
No. Okay. All right. That was terrible. I saw it and I was like, this is so dumb. I have to say it. All right.
It's my first day, so you should excuse
But
me for eating
it's my
cat
first
shit.
day. It's my first day.
Did the
I
cat
know.
also? The cat probably like shit in the litter box, and it was an example for
Yeah.
all the Indians
Yeah.
to be like,
I
"Oh,
thought-
we're not supposed to shit just wherever."
I thought this was.
I thought this was America. It's well, not. This is the
No, in
thing.
fact, it's not. It's in India. All right, Tom. This is the last one. I think it's right up your alley. It's gonna really tickle your fancy here.
My favorite.
Baltimore hitman, nicknamed blank. Chat, I want you to get involved here. Baltimore hitman, nicknamed blank, confesses in murder for hire plot. Baltimore hitman, nicknamed blank, confesses in murder for hire plot.
Well, he's from Baltimore, so part of me wants to say that it has to do with the N-word. I've never met anybody white from Baltimore. I really
Biden?
haven't.
With the oh no, wait, sorry, he was Delaware, excuse me.
No, he's very much Delaware, because that's where
Yeah.
he often vacations there when right after a school shooting or right after like something inconvenient for him.
Right
So
after he
I've-
gets off the phone
here's
with the
the thing.
feds.
I've never, like I said, this is not a joke. This is a fact. I've
Okay.
never met a white person from Baltimore, nor have I ever. Now, I don't know if you, like,
Okay.
I've watched.
I have because John Waters is white and he's from the suburbs
he's
of
not
Baltimore.
really white, right? Like,
Well,
he's not really white.
I mean,
You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
know. John Waters may not even be his real name. I
He
don't
might
know.
not even be from Baltimore. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
But I've never even like watching videos and stuff. Like you watch documentaries or whatever where it's like, hey man, I grew up in Baltimore and this is my home, blah blah blah. And they're like doing the whole thing. And,
Well, I will say John Waters.
It's
no,
never a white
depending
guy,
on
it's
his,
always a black person.
well, he just gave 375 artifacts or whatever to some Baltimore museum. So,
That doesn't
he was
mean
born.
he's from there.
Well, John Samuel Waters Jr. was born in Baltimore, Maryland in 1946.
That was a different time. That was before the civil rights, right?
I'm
No,
not
it was
going
after.
to argue with you there.
That was
but-
after the civil rights. So I mean, that was gentrification, right? Like when they tried to like introduce white people, but it was not successful. Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't like still
Oh, I
live there.
see.
You know what I'm saying? But like
Yeah, yeah.
name a representative, even like their dead representative in Congress was black, right? Like that. So that
Oh,
to
yeah.
me is like
It was,
kind of indicative.
Oh,
of,
what the hell was his name?
Yeah, I don't
Anyway,
know. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
well, Tom, I think we get. It's very close. Chris Rose says killer.
No.
Oh,
What was?
I'm sorry.
Did you give the answer just now? I didn't even.
No.
Okay.
Chris Rose guessed killer. It is not that.
Just killer.
Mike in
Baltimore hitman
Manitoba.
nicknamed Killer.
Yep, Mike in
What a
Manitoba.
lazy nickname.
Yep, Mike in Manitoba guessed the Baltimore white dude.
The Baltimore white. He might be the
Also-
only one. Is he a black
also
guy
not
or a
that.
white guy? Can you tell me? Is
Well-
he black or white?
I can't tell you if he's black or white because I don't see color. I have no idea. But his first name
Sounds
is
like racism to me. Oh,
His
so he's
first
black.
name is
Yeah.
DeQuante.
So he's definitely Hispanic.
Asian.
He's definitely Latinx. So I would say I like Chris Rose's. That's such a lazy answer, Killer. Imagine like if that
Just
was
Killer.
the real answer though. It's like, well, all right. Well, he deserved to be caught, right? Aaron the Iron Urn. That's hard to even say. Aaron the Iron
I
Urn.
know. That's Aaron the Iron Urn.
Yeah, you can't fuck that up.
That's it's not even a tongue twister. It's a jaw twister. Aaron the Iron Urn. You know.
It's just like letting air out like three
That's
different
it.
times. Aaron the
Mhm.
Iron.
Aaron the Iron Urn.
It sounds like somebody who had their jaws wired shut because they broke their jaw.
Yeah, they're asking for pudding, but it sounds like Aaron the Iron Urn.
I
Aaron the Iron Urn. Do you have to pee? What?
I don't know what you need.
Blink
gosh.
once.
Damn you for being from Baltimore. Baltimore hitman. I don't know. I like. Oh gosh, I wish I could be funny right now, but like all these jokes were like they stole my thunder. Baltimore hitman.
Tom, I'm gonna just say one hint.
Give me a
See if
hint.
you can get it. a hint.
I'm just going to give you the first word that comes to my mind. See if I can guess it.
Okay.
You give me a word, and then I'll just, the first thing that pops into my head
Yeah.
that's different, I'll say
All right.
it. Okay.
Do you remember when we did the rap lyrics and you gave them to me to try to figure out, to interpret them, right? And he was talking about his flockas on his blockas.
Blocka.
So,
Shada.
Right. So think of something from that, and it's his name, I think. I think it's in that rap. Without the nonsense, like the real word.
Flocka. I don't even remember the word. I don't even remember the name of the song. Waka Flocka Shada. My repa. I don't know. So Baltimore hitman Waka Flocka Flame confesses to murder for hire plot. What is it? What is the actual answer?
I was trying to say without saying. Baltimore hitman named Glock confesses because Glocka's on my block or whatever. I feel like that's what he said.
That was the one word that like I didn't think.
I did not say, there, and that's why, right? Yeah, it was right there. So Baltimore hitman named Glock confesses in murder for hire plot. Tom, the police were, of course, asked about this case, and they said they were actually honest. It's very rare.
Weird, right?
Yeah, it's rare. You have to give it up for them in this one. The police chief was saying, hindsight being 20/20, it was pretty obvious it was him.
Now that we know his name.
And then to follow, they said, well, him or the other guy, Submachine Gun the Murderer.
Well, you automatically want to default to you automatically want to default to the Submachine Gun Murderer.
Tom, I want to stress again, Tom. The police admitted, in hindsight, it was pretty easy to come upon this guy as the guy because it was either Glock or Submachine Gun Murderer.
I thought you said Submachine Gun the Murderer. Oh, but then Megabit says, but he uses high point, which means that he wasn't which is probably why he wasn't successful.
That's why he was caught.
That's why it was a murder for hire plot and not like a murder for hire, period.
Right. That's right.
Because he uses a high point. Somebody was actually telling me that they almost bought a 380 high point, and I said, why? Like, it was the same, truth be told, it was the same guy who told me that he thinks that the age for purchasing a handgun and certain semi-automatic rifles should be 21. Which
by the way, I have this. I just have this. It's not even. There's nothing to guess. I was in a bad mood before the show kind of started. So, man pleads guilty, learns fate, and caught on camera NYC shove that a woman, subway shove that a woman miraculously survived. This guy shoved a woman, and she fell underneath the subway car. And when he was asked why, he said, "Well, she's a fucking bitch." That was just being a bad because they were like, "There was no." They were like, well, I've met her,
Yeah, I know that lady. She does suck.
She does. Yeah, she looks like kind of a bitch. Sarge, she was under a train for the last 8 hours. Yeah, she's kind of cunty before that, though.
Do you ever wonder why they didn't back the train up? Right? Like at least they know there's nothing.
Yeah,
there,
I mean,
right?
If you just said stay still, you're not dead already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just squish your hand a little further into the dirt, and then we'll go slowly,
So a lot of people, I read something recently about, well, not recently, it was years ago.
What a bitch.
A black hole. About a black hole when it pulls you into it, it's spaghettifying, or they have some scientific term that doesn't sound scientific at all, but spaghettification or whatever, where you're stretched to this singularity or whatever, and it happens in however the smallest notation of a second as possible, a quintrillionth of a nanosecond or some nonsense or whatever. Anyways, it's it happens so quickly, but they describe it as this thing that is just awful. But then in reality, you don't even know it happens because it happens. It's over in such a small amount of time. You would never know.
You can't. So it's the same. If it happens so quickly, you can't even feel it. It's
who cares?
Something
Why
like
are
that.
You describing it so terribly? You don't want to get sucked into a black hole because this will happen. And you're but how long does it take for it to happen? And they're like, it's
I don't know, a half a second. Yeah.
It'll happen.
Well, that's
before
the thing,
you
isn't
even
it?
know that it happened. Right.
That's the thing, isn't it? Right? Because then there's no story, right? Imagine if the story. I'll tell the story from a different. Here we go. Tom, if you ever were to get out in space, in our vast universe, there are these things called black holes, and you could be sucked into them, and we're not even sure what happens. And you would say, wow, what's that like? Right? Maybe something like that.
Yeah,
and I'd
sure.
say, and I'd go, well, really, it's like, I don't know, about less than half a second or something.
It's way less than half a second.
Yeah, just like way less than half. I don't know. You can't even begin a word before it's over. And you'd go, well, I mean, you wouldn't even know you did it. It's like you go on the best roller coaster there is, but you pass out before it starts. That's, but
yeah, there's nothing interesting about that. Tell me what happens.
Yeah, there's just
in that
no story.
quintrillionth of a nanosecond. Tell me about what happens.
But even if you tell
Neil
them,
deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, but even if you say so, oh, this is what happens. How the fuck do you know? It was quintrillionths of a second. You know what I mean? You don't know.
Theoretical
know?
astrophysics, quantum physics nonsense. That's
exactly.
what I lost a lot of faith. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of people who shit on, creationism and. Flat Earth and that sort of thing, and rightfully so. I mean, some of it does sound like cockamamie nonsense or whatever.
A little bit of the gibberish.
Yeah, a lot of it does sound nonsensical, but the more you and we're presented. When's the last time you were presented something scientifically like, oh, these black holes exist, or oh, this neighboring galaxy has this, or these planets or whatever. Can host life, and they're surrounding these star-like or sun-like planets, or whatever. Or sun-like stars. You're given all this information. Oh, we're receiving data from these other planets, and we can imagine. We know that this planet looks like such and such. And when you look at on Google or Yahoo or whatever, or DuckDuckGo or whatever thing you're looking at now for your news. And it'll show you a picture of like what looks like a planet. You'll look at it and you'll be like, oh wow, that looks like a planet for sure. Or oh, that looks like a black hole for sure. Based on what you know of those things, or oh hey, this planet is supposedly inhabitable by people. And then you look at it, it looks like an Earth-like planet, different continent structure or whatever. And you see it and you're like, well, that's fascinating. But then you look at what like how they found out, or like what they know about it. Like, have we seen this planet up close, or do we have any idea of what this planet really looks like? And they're like, well, no, the information that we have is based off of like our best guess, based off of some radio traffic that comes from some unseeable distant galaxy that we presume exists based off of a certain amount of math. So like once you really start looking into how they come up with this information, the more I'm like, because I really tried to give science a go. I really did. For a long time, I really tried to say, hey, okay, astrophysics, they know their shit. Quantum physics, they know their shit. They know what they're talking about because they've got like, but then when you look at their methods, even from a position where you like give them a little bit of leeway, because you're like, well, I don't necessarily understand math as well as like some of these nerds do. But,
sure.
You look at it and you're like, even if I understood this math, it doesn't fucking add up to what you're trying to tell me that it adds up to. So I'm like, at this point, I'm really like, we probably do live in a flat Earth. We probably do have a hollow Earth.
There could be all kinds of,
We may never have been to space because all they're doing is they're telling us, and we know that people can keep secrets, right? They're like, well, how did the entire NASA program, half the motherfuckers in that program probably didn't even know, they were probably fooled too,
Yeah,
like, they were probably there watching blips on a map or whatever, and they're like, hey, we did it, like, so when I see stuff like that, when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, I'm at a point where I'm like honestly convinced that maybe space doesn't exist. I thought it was pretty funny when people would say it. I'm like, that's a pretty funny meme. Oh, space is fake and gay or whatever. All that stuff that the Skinwalker guys do. But I'm like, now I'm at this point where I'm like, maybe they are lying to us, or maybe they're not intentionally lying to us, but maybe they're just like trying to convince us that something.
Dude, they just faked a war in the Ukraine to funnel money all over the place. Why wouldn't they do it in NASA? We know that the first the moon landing was faked. We know. I mean, come on.
Right.
There's literally cameras reflecting off of the guy's mask Like, you can't make a call to space with no delay from the president. Come on. So that was all, there's all that stuff. So then, yeah, like, why wouldn't they just fake some shit, And then it also messes with my head about, like, the, theory of evolution, right? Because you get it embedded in you, like, growing up, no, this is it. And you're
here's
like,
pictures.
And you're really
very visual. Yeah.
Sure. And then also, you're really stupid if you don't believe it. And, backwards, this kind of thing. And then when you look at it, you go, okay, so wait a minute. You're trying to get me to believe that we came from, like, weird fish frog monkeys, but you also have a missing link, which just so happens to coincide with going from that spot that sounds really hard to fucking believe to us. You just don't have any proof, and you're like, well, I mean, it's obvious, like, or whatever is basically their answer, and you're like, wait, what? You mean this whole time you just kind of made this shit up? This is worse than, like, there's not one completed skeleton of a dinosaur kind of thing. Like, This is, at least that is like, well, if you were buried in sand for, like, I don't know, however many, you know what I mean? How good would you look? So, okay, all right. My pinky toe broke and disintegrated. I'm so sorry, or whatever. Right. But this, you're like, all right, look, we got about imagine it was a book report, right? And you read just far long enough in a book, but not the last 2 chapters. And then you give the report.
Like my entire university experience.
Yeah, but and then you give the report without cliff notes because you never, like, there's no, you don't have the answer. And so you go, well, like, imagine you read Misery, and it's a little rough, but then eventually they turn it around and they live happily ever after.
That's
what I mean?
Science in general right now.
Well, I'm just, look, if you can't tell me what a woman is, you can't tell me how we got from monkeys to humans, you can't prove to me that we went to space, and every time you try, it's either an exploded spaceship, a fucking a robot that you could be literally roving in the Arizona desert or some shit.
Yeah. Well, no, it's actually in Canada, I think.
Well, I've heard that. Yeah, it's the same terrain and all that stuff. Like, it's just, look, everything you're telling me is fake and therefore gay, because it costs me lots of tax dollars, which clearly you're just funding into more child sex trafficking and bloodletting, probably. So yeah, if that is the state of science, I mean,
I have to say this. Gary corrected me. He said, "Don't confuse Skinwalker with paranormies," and I'm guilty of that oftentimes because they do bleed together. Sometimes they share one another. They share some of their hosts with one another. And so I do confuse the fake and gay between the two of them. Or I hear that shared between the two of them. But no, I think you're right. And here's the thing: when have I? So I'm a person. I don't believe anybody. There's a lot of people who are like, if you disagree with science, it's not that you're disagreeing with science. It's just that you're wrong because you don't like these scientists. They spent their entire life doing something. I had a friend who used to tell me that all the time. He's like, these people spent their entire lives doing this. And I'm like, but they're also people who are still subject.
Have you ever met a cop who was on the force for 40 years?
Yeah. Those people will take a bribe. They will.
Dude.
They will
probably how they stayed in their position. Like, that's not.
Yeah, they will break that integrity. They will give up that integrity for a couple bucks, right? If they're presented with an opportunity to do that, especially if they've been in that field for that long, because somebody will come along and say, "Hey, you're a trusted guy. People respect you in this industry. What would you say if I gave you $10 million to say that that we landed on the moon?" And lead an operation, like a fake operation. We're going to set it all up. We're going to have our people in place, our agents in place, and they're going to, and then we're going to have a bunch
they're
of,
going to be all your new hires,
nobodies or whatever. They're going to be sitting there and they're going to watch a blip on a screen and you're going to act this out or whatever. But you're a trusted guy. You're in the know. We'll give you $10 million back in 1969 and you're going to make this thing happen. And that dude, of course, is going to be like, well, fuck yeah. I studied my entire life on this thing that never came to fruition because we can't prove that space exists. Right? Of course I'm going to take $10 million to fucking whatever, retire. And so that sort of thing happens. Now, if I were to say, hey, I don't believe you that that's a real dinosaur fossil, can you show me definitively in a way that an idiot like me could understand? And then, of course, they're going to say no, because they're going to be like, well, it's carbon dating. And for me to get into that data, like, we kind of got to, like, you got to have this education and this background.
It's going to take a while, yeah.
You got to trust me, right? And that's the kind of attitude that, like, all these people have is, like, you got to trust me. You got to trust this journalist. You've got to trust this Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. You got to trust this Nobel Prize-winning scientist. You've got to trust this so-and-so. But, like, when I'm like, when somebody says, well, climate change is a little bit more complex than the weather, and I'm like, well, explain it to me. And they're like, well, I don't have time. Or I can't explain it to you. And I'm like, well, no, I want to know. Like, I want to know how fucking climate change...
Tom, the Earth gets warm and or cold at times, and sometimes that leads to things that are uncomfortable, and you don't get it.
Right. And I don't. I apparently don't, because I look around and I'm like, well, the weather's all fucked up. But I don't see, like, I'm looking at the data that you guys presented, and I'm looking at the data that you guys say 97% of scientists agreed with. And I agree with you that...
Yeah, who are totally not funded by the government, by the way.
And not to mention, that data that you presented to them, yeah, of course it resulted in this catastrophic event. But not to mention that data that you presented them was based off of a faulty model that you guys kept changing until it gave you that data. So, of course, when you present the data that you manipulated to a point where you could hand it over and say, hey, tell me that these numbers add up. And they're like, well, yeah, 97% of them are like, well, yeah. And then, of course, the 3%, you're like, what the fuck? How did you end up being like a scientist if you can't look at data and here's the formula to use? You can't come up with this same... There's no doubt that it's going to come to that result, but it's not that. It's the data that you gave is all fucked up. So, like, at this point, I'm like, I don't trust anybody. When I'm like, hey, is this a dinosaur? Well, no, it's a casting of what we think is a dinosaur, right? Yeah. Or, hey, well, what happened with, what's the deal with the moon? Can I see some fucking moon rocks? Well, no, because we used them all, right? Like, we studied them
all of them.
Well, okay.
And we can't go back. We've never been back.
Right. What's up with Mars? Why does it look so much like this area, like almost identical to this area in Canada or whatever that... There's like a country, or it's an island off of Canada, like off of Canada's northern coast. They're like, why does it look exactly like this? Like in every single fucking way. And why are all these things manipulated in such a way that it's very deceptive? Why are there like the number of astronauts that come back to Earth after being on the ISS or being on like flights or whatever, half of them talk about how UFOs and aliens are real, and half of them say they aren't. 50-50, you know, like, I gotta believe that, like, there's something to that, and you guys have denied it. And now after 100 years of us, like, talking about, hey, man, aliens are real, there's something going on with aliens, now all of a sudden, in UFOs, now all of a sudden you guys want to put together a fucking task force to figure that out? Like, we've been telling you. You know, and now all of a sudden you're surprised by it? No, you're not surprised by it. You're just caught. Like, we know that you know now, and now you have to do something about it. So any of this shit about science, I really did. I tried to give science a fair shake, but now I'm at this point where I'm like, you know, probably everything that we know is a lie, and probably everything that we know is wrong. And in fact, I mentioned something the other day. I said some lady, we were talking about me and one of the elders at church. By the way, I was actually asked to audition for a role as a deacon in the church. The elder actually approached me and asked if I wanted to sit down and formally apply. It'd just be me sitting down with the two elders and becoming a deacon. But so I'm like,
congratulations, man. That's great.
Thank you. Hopefully I don't screw it up. But I was sitting down with him and I was just chatting about something or another, and we got onto the topic of gun control or something. But they were like, some lady that was sitting there like near us while we were doing that. No, I said it was because Biden fucked everything up intentionally. Like, all this stuff that's happening is intentional. It's not that Biden bungled the job, right? He did exactly what he was supposed to. Everything that was supposed to happen has happened, right? And she said, to what end? Like, to what purpose? And I said, well, it's all part of the World Economic Forum's New World Order, the New World Government, single world government, right? And she like looked at me like a deer in headlights, like, what is that? And I'm like, I was like, it's a thing. You need to, it's public knowledge now. And like so many people have been convinced that it's not real But even they purport them that like they come out and they say, "Hey, we're the World Economic Forum. We are pushing for a one world government. We want a new world order." These are all terms that they use.
They use, yeah.
But we've been told that no, it's in fact, you know, whatever. It's
Yep.
a conspiracy theory, Jerry. So what do you got to say?
Conspiracy theory coming straight from their own mouths. That's what I would say. I would also say, as I normally do, if you have a home, if you have some yard, if you have some means of growing food, I don't care how. I just want to say to all of you, yet more food distributor, factory, what have yous, have burned down this week. Again, I think I saw a chart the other day where normal activity, where this kind of thing, you know, because accidents happen. It's usually this. This year it's this. Just this year. I'm seeing these videos in my timeline of thousands of cattle are dying and that the food is collapsing. And the Fed has said they're going to raise interest rates another 0.75%.
Yeah.
Its highest single raising of the interest rates since 1994, after they've already made, I believe it's what, 2 or 3. So the point in that, and I was watching a video the other day where essentially something called shrinkflation is happening. So what that means is if you go to the grocery store and you look at, let's say a Twix at your corner shop, you know, well, Twix are supposed to be like 0.54 grams or ounces or whatever the hell it is. Well, they've shrunk it to 0.5, taking away 0.04 from you while charging you the same price and putting it in the same packaging. Essentially, what everybody knows is happening with, or has been happening with, let's say, potato chip bags and things like that, where it's mostly air and all that shit, and they still charge you the same amount of money. Well, essentially, this guy was showing, like, it was toothpaste, it was like all kinds of stuff. Long story short, they're not charging you more money so you don't feel like something's happening. Instead, they're shrinking the amount that you get while using the same packaging, so you don't understand if you're not comparing apples to apples. Like, oh, I bought this week, this last week, and then, you know, if you don't catch it, in other words, you're not going to notice until you have less and less food, or finally
I'm still hungry. Why am I
I'm
still hungry after 3 chips, Jerry?
Yeah, exactly. I ate 3 bags of chips. How did this happen? So yeah, I guess I'm just saying to everybody, I know I've gone on and on, but it's about to get fucked up, and please do what you can. That's the best I can say. And follow me on Telegram if you want, but frankly, I've been ignoring my phone a lot because I've been doing log splitting and gardening, and between that, a 1-year-old and a full-time job, I just haven't looked at my phone much, to be honest. So that's it. That's it for me. Thanks for hanging in there. I hope everybody liked the whoobies.
The whoobies. I'm trying to write down the stuff that King Jordan wrote. He said, check out some books. He was recommending some books about aliens here. Specifically, read The UFO Delusion by Father Spiridon Bailey, and Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future by Father Seraphim Rose, which is interesting because seraphim is a type of angel. Well, seraphim is the plural of the seraph, which is an angel of 6 wings, 6 arms, 6 legs, 6 fingers, 6 eyes, 6. You know, it's an interesting thing. Anyways, it's a type of angel that he wrote a chapter on UFOs. Alrighty. Yeah, so we're actually, I had my fence torn down, and we took all the wood from the 3-board Kentucky fence that we had and saved all the good stuff, and we're going to actually build these really nice planter boxes. So my oldest son and I have been taking them, and we've been, what we'll do is we take the boards, hammer out all the nails, because it's got fucking, like, it's got 3 sets of 2 nails on each board, so we have to hammer out all the nails, and then we have to go through and saw off the ends, so that it's, because, you know, when they put the fence together, they just did like a real quick job to throw it together, so it's got like uneven ends, so we saw off the ends, and then we ended up taking it, and I got like a brush that you can hook into your drill, and I saw off all the moss and any kind of like any unnecessary shit that's on the boards. But yeah, that's what we've been doing lately, and we're actually going to take those and turn them into like these big ass planter boxes. And what I did was I got in touch, I talked to my neighbor and he's got like this stack of firewood from a tree that crashed in his yard, and he cut it up.
I mean,
and he doesn't know what to do with it. So he's just got. We all have gas fireplaces, right? And he doesn't sit out there and burn wood. So he's got this big ass stack of firewood that he doesn't know what to do with. So I asked him. I said, "Do you want me to take that from you and use it for the base of my planter boxes, my raised planter boxes?" And he said, "Yeah, if you could." And so I got that, and then I was like, well, I need organic material like dead sticks and leaves and shit. I got a friend who works a landscaping business, and I talked to his dad, who's the elder at the church, and I said, hey, I gotta get with Clint, and I gotta see if I can get a hold of, like, when he's out doing landscaping, if he can save me some sticks and shit to throw in the planter boxes. And he's like, dude, because he lives right next door to his son. They own like a whole neighborhood out in the country. He's like,
nice.
He's like, dude, he's got like a whole brush pile of sticks. That's all he's got. He just like takes them.
That's the way to do it. There you go.
And I said, so I texted dude Clint immediately. I was like, hey man, like, do you got sticks I can get from you? And I was like, your old man said that you've got a whole stack of it. I was like, can I get some of it? He's like, as much as you want, brother. He's like, I need to get rid of it. He's like, I don't know what to do with it. I said, well, I'm trying to build these fucking planter boxes. So, and then I've got that, and then I've got Chip Drop. I actually requested a drop from Chip Drop.
You did?
I did.
There you go.
And now I'm waiting on them to get back with me. And they said that they would let me know whenever somebody's looking to drop somebody off. But then I've got that, and then I've got all the, just all the bullshit, like a lot of organic material that I can drop in there from these trees that this shrubbery and this all the mulch that I can do.
These trees
so,
go
man,
down.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. I'm gonna save a whole bunch of money by loading it down with organic material, and then it composting over the years, and then just only doing about 6 inches of shit. Then I went to my greenhouse. With this chick from my church, she has a greenhouse. And she was trying to get rid of plants because all of her plants that she was trying to sell, some of them were like no longer able to sustain within those little temporary pods.
Oh yeah.
So she was like, I got to throw them away, or if somebody wants to come and take them and plant them in the community garden, because we started a community garden at my church, by the way, which I've been pitching for years. They finally got out there and they made it happen. And of course, like, I got 0 credit for it, which is totally cool. But like, I literally for years, like, I was like, dude, we need a community garden because we can go. That's stewardship, man. That's something that we're supposed to be doing, right? And if somebody comes and steals every last fruit or veggie that we grow there, who cares? Because we're giving back to the community, right? Like, you can be upset,
that's someone
whatever,
staying alive. Yeah.
But that's somebody, like, they needed it. It's not like somebody's stealing fruit to go throw it in the dumpster. And if they did, who cares? Like, we wouldn't know, but it would seem like we were doing something good for the community. So, anyways, they finally went out there and they tilled the soil and they set everything up. And they were like, hey, we built a community garden. And I was like, fucking finally, after years of me pitching it. But anyways, so I went and I got some ghost peppers from her. I got some tomatoes. I got some other bell peppers, some okra, some lavender, thyme, and rosemary I got, and I planted it around my patio to keep mosquitoes away and shit. So
that's great.
You guys know I'm out there gardening and shit, but that's stewardship too. In addition to caring for your family with the food that you grow and all that stuff, like Jerry said, very important. But yeah, it's stewardship, man. You got to take care of the the land, all the stuff that God gave you. Take care of it. Create plants. Create bountiful harvests. And if you have too much or you can't use it all, give it away because somebody else will use it.
That's right.
That's my big push for the week. Thank you all for tuning in. I don't even know what we're calling this episode because we talked about so many fucking different, vastly different things. But no, we thank you all for being here. Jerry, of course, thank you for being my better
absolutely.
half, as always. And everybody, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.